937 billion, buildings 20 billion, pavement 145, and other fixtures 4 billion. I think it's important to show that significant asset at JKIA is on land, being about the significant almost 90%. Moi International Airport is valued at 23.7 billion, Eldoret International Airport 10.8 billion, and Kisumu International Airport 9.9 billion as of the valuation report done by Public Works in the year 2020. Number 17, Chair.
What about the revenue generated by Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, indicating the specific revenue streams?
JKIA generated in the financial year 2023-24, 19 billion, 14 billion coming from aeronautical, which is landing, parking, and air passenger space charges, and the rest of the 5 billion coming from non-aeronautical, which is car park, duty-free, advertising, cargo, and general retail in that financial year, 2023. 18, Chair.
Yes, we are almost there. About 3 more questions. 18, clarify whether other airports and airstrips in the country are part of the privately initiated proposal.
Honorable Chair, the ADANI PIP is only confined to JKIA. Within JKIA, the proposed concession is further confined to a dedicated area of aeronautical and commercial development as described in number 8 above.
Number 19, clarify whether public participation was carried out, and if not, at what stage it will be undertaken.
Within the Act, Chair, honorable members, public participation happens after the feasibility stage. Once one of the documents which you submit to PPP committee is a stakeholder engagement plan. We have therefore commenced public participation, including engagement with Kenya Airport Authority senior management, which we met on one Monday morning, the whole morning. KAA section heads, we've met over 500 members of staff in a town hall meeting where they demanded a document that they agitated, and one of the documents that was missing, and which we gave them, and that is why we were able to call the strike within 1 day. Airline operators, we have done a stakeholder engagement with the airline operators under the umbrella Kenya Association of Airline Operators. We've done the stakeholder engagement with the ground handlers, retailers, and concessionaires within the airport, KCAA, that is Kenya Civil Aviation, and the Kenya Airways. We are currently considering these feedback, comments, and proposal, any memorandum that may have been submitted, with a view to answering and doing a second round to make sure we have addressed the issues raised. And we shall resume the next phase of stakeholder engagement with the media, which is a way of really reaching out to all the Kenyans. Honorable Chair, allow me at this stage to conclude. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the members for this committee for inviting me to shed light on the matter of concessioning of JKIA. As I mentioned earlier, already the matter is before the court, and therefore the government will use the court process to also ensure that all the relevant information is made available to the court and all the other stakeholders to facilitate clarity and understanding on the development of this major national infrastructure. I wish also to remind us of the great benefits, Chair, that we will basically draw by developing this asset. You know, Kenya is a premium anchor state, being geo-positioned with respect to Mombasa Port, the northern corridor, which basically connects Mombasa seaport to the rest of the landlocked countries. The advantage of really taking advantage as an anchor state for that matter and service in the region, and taking the advantage to grow our economy and improve employment, improve livelihoods, Chair, is something that I want to appreciate. We'll all work together. Thank you, Chair. I submit.
Thank you very much, Bwana CS, for your response to 19 questions that were requested by the Senator Onyonka, and of course the supplementary questions from the members of this committee. And now we are going to turn to the members present to hear their remarks on your submission. But before I give any senator to do so, we are here because of question 19, or the country is agitating to know. We're here because of question 19, because the public was not carried along within this process. There was miscommunication, and I believe, as you said yesterday, Bwana CS, this committee is giving you a chance to talk to Kenyans. And when you talk to Kenyans, they'll be able to understand where we are at. We're going to get their input because, being a broad-based government, we have to take into account every member of this great nation. But a quick one. The question was talking about public participation, but you talked about stakeholders. There's a difference between the two. But before you answer that, I want you to have that at the back of your mind. So members, I want to open the floor. If you would want to engage the CS on that elaborate response that he has given us, plus the document that you are given a few minutes to scrutinize so that we hear. Because CS, the problem might not be the deal, but the wheeler dealers. So that's why we're here, and the floor is open. Yes, Senator, let's start with a friend of the committee, Senator Ledama.
Senator Ledama, through the chair, why ADANI? Like we did indicate, with PPP Act, it basically seeks to help economy on mega projects where the government may not be able to develop. Like, because Senator Chute is sitting here, if we were to take the grid to the northern part of Kenya today, and because the government don't have money to build the network in the next 1, 2, 3 years, what we could do is to interest private capital through PPP Act, through PPP investment, to build the network on a return on equity, reasonable return on equity, and therefore be able to open that northern part of Kenya. Alternatively, we wait for 10, 15, 20 years to open that part of the country. So it's a way of procuring private investors, interesting private investors. The PPP Act seeks to really attract private capital instead of, so that we develop off-government balance sheet. And so the PPP Act seeks, there's so much of insider. You volunteer a lot of information because you are suiting, it is us who want an airport, it is us who want to open another part of Kenya. So you give a lot of information to interest private capital to come in and build it on their balance sheet, not on government balance sheet. So yes, you will see a lot of inside information being given because you are marketing the country for investors to help us to open the country. We do quite a lot in oil exploration because as a country we are not able to prospect for oil. We block the country, we go marketing, come, we'll give you this concession, we'll help you to do this so that we can leverage on early resource to support the economy from being just an agricultural economy to being a diverse economy. So yes, Senator Ledama, there's a lot of insider information when you are employing the PPP because you are attracting somebody to bring his capital, not look so much at the country risk. Today we are at B-. Investors are bound to be saying, why Kenya? There are so many challenges. So you're marketing yourself, and so you provide information, you paint your country to what we truly are, not what people say we are on the internet and so on and so forth, because we want to attract that kind of capital. When you're doing an investment of 1.8 billion in a country, Honorable Chair, and it is private capital, there is the risk. Why do I have to take my 1.8 billion to Kenya? Is it a safe destination? Is this country safe for the next 30 years? Can I get back my investment? And so you even go as far as issuing a letter of support. We do a lot in energy. I think for every generation, because it's expensive, we issue letters of support, and so on and so forth. So, Chair, it's true, Senator Ledama, there's a lot of inside information. It is necessary to attract investors, to show them and paint the correct picture. It is us who need an airport. And otherwise, if we are able to develop on our balance sheet, and I'm now going to the first question of the asset of 1.1 trillion, you'll realize I spent a bit of time on that table on page 8, because I'd anticipated that, and I asked the same question. Why are we having an asset? If you talk about return on an asset of 1.1 trillion, and you're basically having an investment, are we giving out the whole asset? And you'll note that we are only giving them a hived piece of land to build the airport, and even the 30 acres of land for the city side development is purely outside the concession agreement. Land on that asset of 1.1 trillion is valued at 937 billion. So you're just talking about a small investment around the airport, the old airport that needs to... I just flew in from China, and being the Minister for Road and Transport, I looked at the runway, I looked at the taxiway, and I said, it cannot be that this is our airport. We seriously needed to have done that work 10, 15 years ago. If the balance sheet, the government fiscal space, was adequately able to support that kind of investment, Chair, we should really... So, Chair, the straight answer is the only asset, JKI is only getting a small acreage to develop the airport, and not the big asset that is valued at 937 billion. How many acres are they? 11,000. 11,000 acres out of?
The total land in JKI.
No, I'm talking about what is going to ADANI to develop the new airport. But it's a small, they are not, they are just taking, we can give a detail. So, Chair,
point of order, Chair. If you would allow, I would like the CS to actually say what he's saying. He's not saying what he's saying. How much land are we giving ADANI either in concession or outside concession?
Concession for the city side, 30 acres has been agreed on lease commercial terms. For the airport concessioning, because I'm here with the CEO, I will answer that question. Henry Ogoye, give me the straight answer. We need to give the acreage. Just do a bit of some homework. Or do you have the answer?
Yes, thank you, Honorable CS. The thing is that as at now, we cannot tell how much it will be, because they have to come up with the design for the second runway, the area where the new terminal building will occupy, then and even the necessary the accessories. Out of that, we now map the area which ADANI will be responsible for out of the land which JKI is occupying, but not everything. Back to you.
Thank you, Henry. Let me pick it, Chair, from there. You'll note that I did indicate that one of the critical documents to be able to reach commercial or final investment decision is the master plan. If we really put the acreage before the master plan, we'll be basically saying squeeze in, or we are giving you too much land. So we need to see the master plan to be able to say, is it 200 acres, is it 400 acres, is it 500 acres? But certainly the big asset value for JKI is the land, and I don't think they are taking 5% of the land once we see the master plan. So allow us, Chair, because we are at that stage, to be able to answer and see what is the value of the asset in land that we are giving out, and be able to more articulately answer that question on, is this a reasonable return on asset when we give them too much value for an investment of 2 billion. Chair, the final part of this question is to the head of terms. Chair, we have retained a transaction advisor called Sequoia, Button and Box. Sequoia, Button and Box. Chair is a company, a very reputable transaction advisor. They have done many airports. I'd like us to Google. That's why I repeated the name twice. They are working with a local legal firm called Ashitiva Lawyers to support us to run the transaction. Those are retained by Kenya Airports Authority, and working with the National Treasury, the Directorate of PPP. It's important, Chair, to appreciate the fact that the head of terms was not done by ADANI. When you Google who are these Sequoia, Button, and Box, and when I did that homework, I found that they have done most of the world-leading airports. And I think reputational risk is something of paramount to a great transaction advisor in terms of ensuring that they don't just do a small transaction advice in Kenya and run down their reputation because of. So yes, I thought it's just important to mention that we retain Sequoia, Button, Box, working with, it's a global service law firm with very sound counsel in airports, and therefore we have good advisory service. And I want to basically and categorically indicate that the head of terms was a very well negotiated document between the lawyers of ADANI and our transaction advisor, and of course the PPP Secretariat at the National Treasury. I don't know whether I have anything else I need to talk to.
Yeah. Senator Ledama had asked, why not build a new airport some kilometers away?
Important, and the shareholding. The shareholding, Chair, is something that cannot be left, and it must be disclosed. We will have to do it during this due diligence. Let me answer that question together first, Chair, with the issue of debt equity. Senator Ledama, through the Chair, the debt equity when you are doing huge infrastructure investment is the way to go. In fact, as a student of financial accounts or investment, the debt is normally cheap. And what happens is you need to be able to put in your equity to draw debt. Debt can be a mixture of crowd-sourced funds from various banks and so on and so forth. For you to get 70% debt, which will be serviced over a period of 20 to 25 years, the due diligence will really be so thorough, to the extent that you cannot take risk of lending $1.2, $1.3 billion if they were hanky-panky, because you could be walking in to lose your money. This is why, as a government will issue letter of support, a due diligence will be done by the banks. When we talk about reaching financial close in 6 months, 9 months, it may not even happen in 1 year. So we should be asking us, why don't you give us an airport in 1 year? Why are you dealing with documents for the next 9 months? The banks will do, the lenders will do a thorough due diligence to give us their money. And it's important to note that the share or ratio of debt equity is important, because debt normally is cheap. You can borrow US dollar denominated loan at today 8, 9, 10%. But when you put in equity, 30%, equity is expensive. If you do investment in the market today, you can get up to 16, 17, 18%. So if we were to ask somebody to bring their money at 18%, there will be a rush to invest, because we are guaranteeing a return on investment for 30 years. And then so the term sheet would ordinarily, for big infrastructure project, define not more than 30%. In fact, in energy, we do 25%. We do 25% debt, 75%, 25% equity, 75% debt, because debt is cheap. I thought it is important to, it's a principle of investment in economics to be able to do that. But more importantly, let's talk to the, so it's very important. A due diligence will be done and we'll disclose that. But more importantly, the lenders will do a thorough due diligence to be able to commit their debt, which will sit with us for a long time, and which if they don't do their due diligence and they lose the money, it's a case of why Kenya. They've got many other good blue chip investment where they can put that money. As regarding why not build an airport in Konsa, in a feasibility study, and I don't have a straight answer for this, but think about a new airport being built outside JKIA and all service migrating to the new airport. What do we then do with our assets? What do we do with our staff? It's important to basically note that, think about if when Safaricom came and they did not move with the telecom, some of the Telecom Kenya staff, you would be left with a stranded asset that you cannot develop. So you would have to do some serious consideration.
Just on a point of order, I mean, when I see us interject.
Yes, that's it.
Because I'm not going to interject because my colleagues need to ask questions. Are you sure you believe what you're saying? In the sense that if we were to build a new airport, that JKIA will become problematic, yet you are the CS of transport, you can easily give consent to a few airlines to fly into this one and the other ones to fly into the other one. Number two, just nearby in Rwanda, in Ethiopia, they are building, in Rwanda, they are building a new airport 30 kilometers from Kigali. And in Kigali, there's an airport. Honestly, Bonasias, my friend, do you really believe what you're saying?
Chair, yes. Flip it. And in the documents we are negotiating, they are telling us also that once you concession to us, JKI, don't build a new airport within a radius of 800 kilometers, because the point is really, you are seeking to secure this huge investment, and you don't want, if we don't get return on this investment, we will have to raise the service charge to be able to cover because the facility must be fully serviced. And to the extent that we don't get enough revenue, we'll be forced to raise the service charge to be able to pay the loan. Because the loan, at the end of the day, it must be bankable. The project must be economically bankable to be able to do that. But, Chair, I think it's important, and that's why I use Safaricom. If we allowed another parallel company to build a telecom company at that time and not inherit the old assets that we had and clean them up and support the staff, we can actually be left with our staff complement, because for this it's a win-win. They take over the staff, they upgrade the airport, they build a new runway, and to the extent that, Chair, I think it's important to say this, what we are also negotiating, to the extent that the threshold for bankability is exceeded because we are building a 23,000 capacity airport. Suppose, like I said yesterday to the media, the economy grow and we need the numbers for the airport exceed 23,000. We are negotiating to be allowed to concession a second airport, and that way make economic sense and make sure the bankability. Because Senator Ledama, through the chair, it's important to know that if they don't get the revenue threshold to make the project bankable, the service charge will have to be increased. Under the current negotiated...
we hear you, Bonasias, because you repeated what you said.
Let me say one final item.
Yes.
All airport charges charged by the airport service shall be approved by the contracting authority. So they will not come and impose their charges. There is a charter on how the contracting authority sets the service charge for our airport, because at the end of the day, Rwanda is built, Ethiopia is built, Tanzania is built. If they set a very high tariff and that makes our airport uncompetitive, it could end up being that we have to pay too much for the small traffic to be able to service their loan. Because at the end of the day, the concessioning, we have to make enough revenue to service this debt. And so, Chair, it's a question, it's an economic question. I don't think it's a numbers question. And we really need to get down to that.
Okay. Chair, I think so that we have so many questions. I feel like it's a done deal. I'd want you to, is this a proposal? I'm not trying to help you what to say, but it feels like already we are there. But let's have the Vice Chair. Then after that, we have members of the committee, Then I give the friends later.
Okay. 3 questions to the CS. Bwana CS, you have said in your submissions that there is no legally binding agreement has been finalized. The heads of terms document has not been signed. That's, in his submission, he said it has not been signed. You can read it. Okay? I'm quoting from what he has submitted. That the heads of terms document has not been signed. No legally binding agreement has been finalized. There are no guarantees. I'm quoting your words. The deal has not been signed. Bwana CS, then my question will be, if the process is halted at this stage, will you then guarantee Kenyans that there will be no financial losses incurred by the government of the government of the Republic of Kenya and the people of Kenya? That's 1. 2, Bwana CS, you have said there are no other companies that have submitted a PIP proposal. Does this mean then that now that it is only ADANI, that the whole BOT, build, operate and transfer, was ADANI's initiative and not our own idea or plan? And if it was our initiative, I'll still ask the question that Senator Ledama has asked. If it was our initiative, why ADANI? Why ADANI? Number 3, Bwana CS, Kenyans have gone ahead of you. Kenyans have done due diligence in trying to know who ADANI is. And their findings, ADANI is not credible. Their findings, there will be job losses incurred in this process. Therefore, the verdict of Kenyans, then the public of Kenya, the verdict is no deal. What will be your response to this? Because the finding of Kenyans is that there is no deal. And this is because of what they have got, for the findings they have found about ADANI. Bwana CS, this is an Indian newspaper. Gautami Adani is the king of fraud. So Kenyans have said they're not going to put their investments, huge investments, in the hands of a fraudster. Thank you.
Bwana CS.
Very quickly, Chair, if to date there will be no financial loss to Kenyans, it's very clear that in the engagement, everybody incurs the expenses until, is it until financial close? Until the contract agreement is signed. So there will be no financial loss up to concession contract signing. Why ADANI? I did say, Senator Paris Tobiko, that through the chair, that when you are doing big infrastructure projects, you actually market yourself for investors to come and develop your country. Most county governors are trying to attract investors to say, I'll give you free land if you come and build an hospital, and so on and so forth, because they don't have the money to build that hospital, or they don't have the money to build that infrastructure. And so how do I get my revenue when I build this? So the point is, let me use the Rironimau Summit Road, which we've tried to concession to the French. We are trying to see who can build this road for us, because today, from the traditional 4 or 5 hours to reach Eldoret, to reach Kisii, today on that road you can spend 10 hours. And we don't have money, or we can't borrow on our headroom, fiscal headroom, to build the road. So who can help us to build this dual highway all the way to Kisumu and Malaba? And so we go out there interesting investors to come and build a toll road on a reasonable return on investment, and we are ready to pay. So, Chair, you interest investors, and ADANI invest in airports. You interest investors, why don't you look at Kenya? Why don't you come? We can give you some return. We can give you political support, and so on and so forth. So this is really the PPP Act to answer, together with the third question, that basically is not being employed much. And when people are referring to procurement, they know the traditional Procurement Act of 2015, now 2020, and where it must be competitive, it must be, the rules are the rules on the PPP Act, and that's why I read through the 20-stage process, is a negotiation process. And it is a process which can collapse because the investor can say, why Kenya? There is so much risk. And yet we need a road. If they don't come, we don't have the road, we live without the road. If they don't come, we don't have an airport. It is us who need the airport. So to the extent that ADANI, we know ADANI invests in airports. Whereas so much has been said about ADANI, I've done my homework. Let me say one thing, Chair, about ADANI. ADANI runs because we have already gone for that due diligence, and some of the bit of positive findings about ADANI, which came to my knowledge, is that ADANI runs one of the world biggest airport. With in Mumbai, they run a 60,000 capacity airport. 60 million capacity airport, which is the world most efficient on a single runway, beating Gatwick, London. I think it's important to basically say the positive and the negative. And even that press cutting that we have read is already with us. We'll be seeking to make sure those questions are answered to basically be able to satisfy ourselves and support Kenyans. ADANI runs Ahmedabad with 11 million capacity. They are building Navi, Mumbai, a 90 million capacity airport, which...
Point of order, Chair. Chair, what the CS is talking about is within our knowledge, and everybody knows. I don't think there is any reason why he should talk about those things, because everybody here knows about those things. There is no point.
I think it's good for the CS to mention that, because you see, we are also talking about ADANI.
Then, Chair, we have got 20 issues that they've done, things they've done.
What the CS could have done is to give this information earlier and give this information in your background. Let's first of all deal with the questions. You know, direct answers, so that we come to the issues of what ADANI has done, because even as a committee and as a Senate, we have also done our own research. But I suggest, first of all, you go to the questions. Then you are going to answer that question maybe at the tail end of what ADANI has done. And by the way, there's no proposal. So I don't know, we might not even want to go there. Answer the question.
Finally, the final question, Kenyans have done a due diligence, and I think, Chair, it's unfortunate that we allowed Kenyans to do due diligence because of the we're very happy to be here to provide this kind of information, to define the process on the PPP, so that the PPP is not being judged against the public procurement process and the fact that it's a negotiation process. This is helping us. That's why in my statement I said even going to court helps us to provide the information. We should have done this much earlier, and you'll agree with me that some of the disclosures we are making, Kenyans are asking, why did you tell us yesterday? So we take this session very positively as a way of disseminating information, and like Senator Tobiko, the point about providing information is critical. It is important so that people make informed decisions, and we should have done this much earlier. Unfortunately, the PPP process is a negotiation process. So at any stage, like with the union, we are almost seeking to say, can you work with us and be part of the team? Because things are changing every day. So even if we provide information today because we are negotiating, that 16% where we are today on return on equity could be 15% tomorrow. So we can provide information today, and because it's a negotiation process, it is changing every day. So to a very good extent, we should have done this. We need to educate Kenyans about this new procurement methodology that seeks to support the country on big infrastructural projects which the country cannot invest in because of the fiscal headroom. If we were to build an airport today, in the final sentence, with a bottom line of about 5 billion on JKI balance sheet, albeit the big loans they have taken, we'll build an airport in 60 years.
And on that issue of everybody feels like ADANI is a fraudster, have you done due diligence?
I guess that is where the context on why I was explaining the positive side of ADANI. We're going to get all the negative side of ADANI, and we'll like to get the teams doing this work, including this world-renowned transaction advisor, to answer those hard questions. It cannot be that we see that kind of headline and we just brush it aside. Those questions must be answered.
That one I agree, because if you were to search your colleague, Hassan Joho, the first thing that will come is that I will never work with Ruto, but now he's working. So I understand when it comes to that. Senator Sifuna.
You hand the witness to me, and I'll be done with him in 5 minutes. CS, I prefer, because we've worked with you at the Energy Committee, I prefer that you give direct answers. I only have 5 minutes. In November of 2023, I was in the Senate when your predecessor, Kipchumba Murkomen, told us that the government was going to initiate a tender process. In fact, he gave the date of January of 2024 for the upgrade and development of a second terminal at JKIA. When did the policy of government change with regards to upgrading of JKIA? CS, with me, we'll talk directly. Just answer me, then I'll go to the next question.
How many questions do you have so that you can manage
I have
time?
only 5 minutes, Chair. All my questions will be answered in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've taken quite a bit of time talking to the process of unsolicited, public or privately initiated proposal. It is in the law, it is in PRP.
Yes, my question is,
yes.
Forget what ADANI did. I'm talking to government policy now. The stated government policy as at November of 2023 was that there was going to be the initiation of a tender process. In fact, he had said there would be an international expression of interest for the development of a second terminal at JKIA, advertised in January of 2024. When did government policy with regards to the development of a second terminal at JKIA change?
The fiscal headroom, the capacity for government involvement in being a partner in funding the development of the airport. It's one thing when you come to government and you want to do big things until you realize the government balance sheet is overstretched.
CS, you are evading my question, because even if we did a public tender, we would not be using public money. If we did an expression of interest for everybody to know that we are interested in redeveloping or upgrading JKIA, let other people come. That was the position of the government as far as this infrastructure project was concerned. Is it still the stated policy of government, Waziri? Is it still the stated government policy that we will put out an invitation for expression of interest for anyone interested to do it?
I'm advised that before we went out and when we got the privately initiated proposal, we satisfied ourselves and we are taking the proposal through the due process, and that is why we abandoned the other route, because it's one thing, like I said, you suit investors when you are doing big infrastructure projects. So when you have one on the table, you'd rather try to retain that one. A bird on hand is better than 9 in the bush.
You'll agree with me, Bwana CS, that the problems we are in right now is because you abandoned that public path. What is, in your view, the requirement for disclosure for an entity that receives a private initiated proposal? Do we have to wait for whistleblowers to give us those documents? If your ministry receives that proposal, another proposal today, what do you think is your responsibility to disclose?
Certainly, I think I've acknowledged that we should have really carried Kenyans earlier through proper disclosure.
Now, would you agree with me that this is a more inefficient method? You told us that there's a committee of 15 people to review one proposal. If tomorrow we woke up, Waziri, and we have 30 proposals to redevelop JKIA, we would go through these same 20 steps that you have given us with the 15 people per committee to look at each individual proposal.
I agree with you, but for huge infrastructure projects, I wish we could get another proposal tomorrow. I wish we could get Rironi, Mau Summit proposal tomorrow. We don't have one. So if we get one tomorrow, we'll be visiting that country destination to suit them to come and close that deal.
That's what I'm saying, CS.
Yeah.
If you put out an international invitation for expression of interest, you would get more proposals. And you would have one team working on all of those proposals, telling Kenyans which is the best proposal, instead of secretly initiated private proposals that you have to then look at one at each moment. But let me move to this question of the employees. You have told us that there will be 3 options, mambo ni matatu. That you either accept the proposal from ADANI, or you stick with KA, or you take a golden handshake. Where in that head of terms is that? Because I've read 3.3 of the head of terms, and it doesn't speak to those 3 options for the staff at JKIA. Where in the proposal can I find what you have told us?
I think, Chair, I did say we are currently negotiating the concession agreement. We have a draft concession agreement which we are currently negotiating, and those are the 3 items which are deal breakers for us as Kenya, and ADANI has accepted. Maybe because it's what's happening now. Like I said, we are at that stage number 13, where we are currently negotiating the pulling the key items from the head of terms to the concession agreement. And then I'm on record. I took an oath. The 3 items, the 3 options I've mentioned, we've made them deal breakers, that the terms will be same or better. The staff can take the option of remaining in KAA, or they can take an exit option. So that is information because of the timing and what's going on right now.
Chair, I just have 2 final questions, then I will hand it back. ADANI, in fact, the construction of a second runway, which all of us agree is necessary, is not a priority for them. If you look at the proposal, they make it contingent upon traffic justifying the investment.
ADANI proposal is ADANI's proposal. They would certainly like to come and sweat the current runway, but cognizance of what's happening.
Our runway.
Our runway.
They want to use our runway. They are not building anything extra.
But cognizant of what's happening in the region competitively, Ethiopia, Tanzania, we have made it also a deal breaker that a second runway. So it's one thing to give us, like I said, it's a negotiation. So one of the deal breakers for us is a second runway within that period of time that we are negotiating on.
Okay. Lastly, Chair, I want to know if there are any tax exemptions that ADANI have requested for. Which taxes and for how long? They are proposing to be exempt, if at all.
They are, because they are pitching to make the best on return on investment, and if we gave them a tax holiday, they could possibly recover their money quickly. There are none, and I think even if they were made, tax issues are parliamentary issues. They would have to come to the House.
No. We only enact laws regarding taxation. I'm asking, is the concessionaire asking for any tax exemptions?
CEO, do you want to help me here so that I don't keep consulting?
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Yes, in their proposal, they had indicated that they would want some tax holidays, but the position we've taken is that in the event of such an application, let it go through the due process. So no, they have never been accepted on that. We've now migrated it to the due process.
I wish you would use the language of the CS. Is that a deal breaker or not?
We never made it as a deal breaker. We migrated it, we ring-fence it to the due process. So it is up to the government to accept or to reject.
Okay, lastly, Chair, listening to the CS, very lastly, listening to the CS, you would think that what they are to set up a coffee shop at some corner of JKN, that operations will continue. Because I heard you when you asked what percentage of land they are taking up. Isn't it a fact, CS, that this proposal is to take up the entire management of the entire airport? You are not setting up a new duty-free shop at a corner somewhere. They are taking up the entire JKIA, from management of the, what did you call, the aeronauticals, to parking, to everything, including the employees. Why are you creating this impression that you are hiving a small corner for them somewhere to do operations and that KA will continue with management of JKIA? What is the correct position, CS?
Let me take some water, please.
Thank you, Waziri.
Hii kitu ni ngumu bwana. Hii kitu ni mbaya.
Senator Onyonka, you're out of order.
What the proponent wants to come and put up is clearly illustrated. A new terminal, a runway based on trigger, refurbishing the existing terminal, and establishing what we call the rapid exit taxiways. Now, this will need to be decided. Are we putting up 140,000 square meter of terminal? Are we putting up 100,000 square meter of terminal?
That's not the question.
JKA has 11,000 acres. If the proponent would want to come and put up, hotels in the city side, they will follow up the KA land lease policy. We are not giving out the entire 11,000 acres.
That's not the question, Chair. The question is management and operation of JKIA as an airport.
Yes.
From the aeronauticals to the parking areas, to all the businesses that are going on there. Who is going to be doing that management?
Yes, ADANI is an operator, and that is why the model is build, operate, transfer. They will be running the JKIA.
Everything.
Yes.
That's what you should say. Thank you, Chair. I
Thank you.
over.
Thank you very much.
I hope he's still in the shape that you wanted him to be.
You know, Senator's friend, so he wanted to cross-examine. So I don't know whether Senator Achute would want to do the same, or you want to give your questions and then you wait for answers.
Yes, I will ask questions and wait for answers. You know, I am surprised and shocked. And I think if the CS we seated here before us today was the CS then, I know and believe you wouldn't have agreed to this consent. I come from a nomadic community. And in a nomadic community where you also come from, you cannot bring a goat. We normally do barter trading. You cannot come with a goat and expect the other person to give you a camel. Once that happens, you will just say, no, I will not even talk to you. And I want to tell you today, Honorable CS, the deal initially, when they proposed to invest $1.8 billion. And that is 234 billion shillings. Honorable CS, the land and property value today is at 1.1 trillion shillings. What ADANI wants after 30 years is 18%. So that means they are taking land plus properties on those land for about 18%, which is what they've invested initially. And I don't understand. Why are you even negotiating? Because after 30 years, after making a lot of profits, they want 18% of our land plus property on that land. Honorable CS, Ethiopia, they're building a new airport. This airport is costing $6 billion US, and it will accommodate 100 million passengers. It is 40 kilometers away from Addis Ababa, a place called Bushot. So I want to ask you, Bwana CS, kindly, why don't you cancel this deal? Because it stinks to the core. I give you an example. And I want you to do this mathematics. ADANI comes from India and then get 18% of our property, of our land, and everything we possess, and take it to India. Why should you accept this? Tell us. Why do you even negotiate? That's my question. Number two, you've talked about the issue of ADANI. There is a report by Heidelberg Research Institute that says ADANI is a con. And I don't want to list it down. It's about 20 issues. It talks about ADANI itself, and it talks about relatives, almost 8 of them, how they conned people, how they conned even taxes. So, Honorable CS, I don't mind these people investing here, but my question is, why did you even decide, the government decides to even negotiate with them? Because the initial program, if I look at what they've given, you just tell them, sorry, come up with something good or better. Because you've already invested, you are sending people to India, you are sending people all over. So tell us why. The other last issue, Honorable CS.
Thank you.
Let me finish.
The last one, and then you'll be able to respond.
Please kindly, Bwana CS, call the president, talk to him, advise him, tell him this deal. Kenyans don't want this deal. This is a fraud, and it's a fraud just like Goldenberg, and it's a fraud, Anglo-leasing, and a fraud like the cooking oil. Yes, edible oil. That is being now dealt with. So, Bwana CS, for the love of this country, please advise the president. Thank you very much.
Bwana CS.
Chair, I think it's an Honorable Chute's submission is based on wrong information. That ADANI is requested for 18% residual after 30 years. That is not true. There is no request for 18% residual equity ownership of the airport after 30 years. It reverts to the government of Kenya 100%, and I'm on oath, Honorable Chute, through the chair. There is no 18% residual. We can come back again and again because, like I said, it's a negotiation process, but there is no 18%. The 18%, which could have been kind of carried, is in the initial proposal, they did ask for 18% return on equity, the 30% equity they are putting in. And I think today we've negotiated, we are at 16%. 16% return on the 30% equity investment. There is no 18% residual equity ownership of the airport after 30 years. That is the straight answer. Thank you.
Okay. We were waiting for Senator Omtata. Yeah, you'll be the next one.
Yes, Honorable CS, it's a pleasure to meet you for the first time. I never engaged with you. And I would like to thank you for honoring the summons of the committee. Some of your members sometimes give us troubles coming here, and so I am most honored for that. Now, I would like to begin from your document, which you gave us. That's your response, that's paragraph 3, where you say the proposed concession is anchored in the Public-Private Partnership Act of 2021. That statement locates these proceedings in that act. And my question is, under that act, do you have the locus to answer any questions? Who is the Cabinet Secretary anticipated under Section 2 of that act? That's my first question. Secondly, I would like to reiterate what the chair stated in passing like to the light, but it's a fundamental issue that your documents are crafted in a language that says that the ADANI deal is done. We will, we shall, we will, we are. It's already concluded. I don't know why you are giving that impression that this deal is already concluded. I want now to take you to the law. You have given us here a process where you have said bullet points on how a PPP works. And I put it to you that you are trying to mislead the Senate. This step 1 to step 20 and so forth is not how the PPP Act works. First of all, the PPP Act does not oust the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act, which provides for direct procurement, privately initiated proposals, restructuring, restricted bidding, and competitive bidding. You have told this committee, in answer to Senator Ladema's question about those detailed sketches and what have you, that is the government which gave out that information to attract investors. I want to read for you a definition in the law of what the PPP, what a privately initiated proposal, that's under Section 2 of the Act, means a proposal that is originated by a private party without the involvement of a contracting authority and may include information that involves the complete evaluation of the proposal as if it were a bid. What you are telling us does not conform to that standard. And I would refer the Minister to sections 40, 41, 43, and 44 of the PPP Act to underscore what I'm saying. And I would also want to refer the Minister to Part 7 of Section 68 of the PPA Act 2021 on the establishment of the project company that states, you have told us here that you are negotiating that the CEO of that company should be a Kenyan. Under the law, when you get to that stage, what does the law say? On the execution of a project agreement, the project contracting authority and successful bidder shall establish a project company in accordance with the Companies Act. So if you are at that stage, it means this deal has been concluded, according to the law. And you are trying to run circles around this committee, which is not acceptable. I move on. Jomo Kenyatta International Airport is a going concern. And the objective you have given us here is to expand the airport. And therefore, the project is initiated by Kenya Airports Authority and cannot be privately initiated. Thus, the project cannot be procured under Section 40, 41, 43, and 44 of the PPA Act. This particular contract, if that's the aim, should be procured through the competitive bidding under Section 46 to 63 of the PPP Act. The use of privately initiated proposals here raises a red flag that all you are confronting us with is concealment of fraud. And this might be a major case of money laundering, where a public project is being used to repatriate money that has been stolen from Kenya in the guise of developing the airport. I want to add on, Chair, if you allow me some time. I spent a bit of time reading through the document.
All right.
So, the use of this PPP in the ADANI case is fraudulent. The process does not meet the requirements of Section 40, 41, 43, and 44 of the Act. And given time, I'll jump through some of the things I wanted to say and just go to the key issues. I would like us to look, if you look at Section 40, Section 41, I'll go to 41. I'll jump 40. I'll go to Section 41. Yes. 41A has an express requirement that you have not fulfilled. It requires that the directorate, in coordination with the contracting authority, shall, before commencing an evaluation, you are telling us an evaluation is underway. You are even doing due diligence. But the law says, before commencing an evaluation of a privately initiated proposal, you shall conduct due diligence to confirm that the private party has not been debarred by any country or any international organization from participating in public-private partnerships or similar arrangement, is not corrupt, has not engaged in acts of corruption, and has not been sued or convicted on account of acts of corruption. It's a requirement of the law. Before you touch anything they propose, it is supposed to, under SEM 41, you have to demonstrate that the group is tax compliant in all jurisdictions where it has operated or operates. You go on and says, the entity has not, and its directors or officers have not been convicted of any criminal offense related to professional conduct within a period of 5 years preceding the submission of proposal, and have not otherwise been disqualified pursuant to administrative suspension or debarment proceedings. So, all these things, and I mean others I have tried to highlight out, but just to leave it up because of time, I would have expected you, before you began addressing this Honorable Committee of the Senate, to first of all justify why it is you, the Minister for Transport, who is answering matters on PPP. The letter was addressed to Mr. Mudavadi. At that time, he was covering the entire cabinet. Who was the minister responsible who should be answering these questions? Is it you or the Minister for Finance? You are a stranger in these proceedings. The minister to answer these questions is the Minister for Finance, not you. You are not recognized in law. And so, secondly, I would have expected the answers to begin by showing that there was this due diligence carried out and the ADANI was cleared before the government went further to begin looking at them. Secondly, there's a requirement in the law that you must prove that competitive bidding could not give us a bidder. It must be that ADANI is bringing something so unique to them that you must go the PPP way. If competitive bidding can realize the same result, you are supposed to do competitive bidding. Where is the proof that only ADANI has the technology or the whatever to expand an airway or the capacity? So you needed to justify that competitive bidding was ruled out. The default for public procurement is competitive bidding. So your initial suggestion that the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act was like sidestepped by the PPA is not true. The PPA is just stands on the Public Procurement Act to advance its cause. So I put it to you that you are trying to scam us in your response. You have no standing to address this committee, and I would ask the chair to demand that the Minister for Finance, who is the entity recognized by law under the PPP, comes to address this committee on the questions you have asked. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Before I give the CS is properly before this committee. This is a committee of transportation. This is a committee that saw it fit to look into this issue of ADANI because the is a matter of public interest. And we invited the CS to appear here to shed light. If we find the gaps, nothing stops this committee from inviting any other person. And probably you have seen some gaps. So nothing stops this committee from inviting anyone. But if you remember very well, maybe you are not in when I was making my opening remarks, I asked the CS, he was supposed to be accompanied by the Director General, Public-Private Partnership, who is Mr. Christopher Kiregwa. And I also asked that yesterday. So, and I said we are going to deal with that issue at the tail end because I didn't want to chase the CS away because it's a matter of national interest. So this is another character that we are going to discuss as a committee because we have invited the Treasury. We had actually invited the PS for Treasury, but we were expecting the Director General of Public-Private Partnership, who is actually the one who is supposed to answer all these questions. But the CS saw it fit to come before us because he understands our role as a committee, and I should thank him for appearing here. But having said that, Bwana CS, briefly, because it was Senator Omtata took us through the law and what the law says, I would want you to comment on Senator Omtata's remarks or contribution. I did not hear the question, but I would want to hear your comment on that.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Senator Omtata, for the question. As regarding the due diligence that ought to have been done before commencing the exercise, my written response does say an initial due diligence was done, Chair, so it was done. It is not true that it was not done. If you go to my first page of my document, I did say in paragraph number 3, starting with, currently we are processing through the stages outlined in the PPP framework. We are in the detailed due diligence phase while also negotiating the proposal submitted by ADANI. An initial desktop due diligence was done by KAA and the PPP Directorate before commencing the evaluation. So it was done. As regarding the procurement process, I'm not a lawyer, chairman like Omutata. I thought he was, sorry. But I've just been referred very quickly to Section 4.2 of the PPP Act, which does say the provision of the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act shall not apply to a public-private partnership. So I don't know whether we are reading the same law, the same act. And if you go quickly to section, which other section was this we wanted to refer to? Section 40, which basically talks to a contracting authority may consider a privately initiated proposal submitted under subsection 1, which is a private party may submit a privately initiated proposal to a contracting authority, and the authority may consider a privately proposal submitted accordingly. Chair, let me basically say, for big infrastructural projects, like I've said earlier on, you basically, as a country, are seeking big investments. And it's one thing to market your country, to develop your infrastructure, other countries, like somebody said, Ethiopia is developing 100,000 passenger terminal, 100 million. Ethiopia, Uganda, sorry, I've got some numbers here. Rwanda is just completing developing its airport that will have a capacity of 14 million passengers at 1.3 billion. Just to talk to the issue of cost, we are asked many times, why are we spending 1.8 when Rwanda is spending 1.3? The capacity for Rwanda is 14. The capacity we are developing is 23. Ethiopia is developing 100 million passenger. But more importantly, look at the competitive aspects of Kenya being that anchor state, when we do enjoy the benefits of what I said earlier, geolocationing with Mombasa Port, that we should not be competing with Ethiopia, who do not have the benefit of having a seaport. And therefore, we need to ensure that by sea, by air, by road, we are competitive. And it's important, therefore, that whereas our fiscal headroom cannot afford us to build a new airport, which we should have built some 15 years ago, it's only fair that we seek private capital to help us to build a new airport. We need a new airport, and it is incumbent upon us to really suit investors if, for example, in my last trip to China, which is the China-Africa kind of forum on China-Africa cooperation, we are marketing a number of infrastructure projects like roads, and we are saying, how do we open up our road to Malaba from Nairobi, from Mombasa, and so on and so forth. So to be able to attract that kind of investment, Chair, you need to give investors information and to be able to make informed decisions to come to Kenya and not to go to Ethiopia. Let me rest. I don't know whether there's a very specific question which I didn't basically address from...
Maybe you can address that, Klaus, again, that you talked about the PIPs are not subject to...
I've just quickly been referred to Section 4.2, Chair, which does read the provision of the Public Procurement Act, Asset and Disposal Act 2015, shall not apply to a public-private partnership. So we basically have to prosecute the privately initiated proposal in line with the PPP Act. I think the biggest challenge, Chair, we are facing is that we have not really employed often the PPP Act, or not many projects have succeeded through the PPP procurement process. And then therefore, some of the challenges we are facing because of non-disclosure, there's a lot of negotiation in the process, is lack of information. And in Section 42 of the same PPP Act, it does read, a contracting authority may consider a privately initiated submitted under this, under one, which is a privately party may submit a privately initiated proposal to a contracting authority. And that is what ADANI did. Thank you.
Okay, and when you're there, just go to 41. No, the same section, 43J, that states the privately initiated proposal under subsection 1 shall contain the following information. J states a justification why the project is not suitable for open competitive procurement. Yes. I think on that one, that's why that's the area. That's why we feel that ADANI's proposal is the only proposal that we should go out with. Why not, for competitiveness, say we have one proposal, but before we consider this, we are going to invite any other person out there who would want to come up with their own proposals.
Chair, I'm advised we satisfied ourselves that there was good justification why the project could not be suitable for open competitive. I think you're talking about the kind of investment we are looking at. The investors who look at various aspects of investing in various destinations. And yes, I think we can give that justification why we think the project, or why we satisfied ourselves that the project was not suitable for open competitive.
Point of order, Chair.
And that's why we're still insisting this Mr. Christopher Kiregwa, the Director General of Public-Private Partnership, should be here. I don't know whether it's before maybe the end of this session. You should have him here. I know. Okay, so if you can contact him, but I have Senator Sifuna.
Yes. Chair, you remember me asking the CS when the policy of government changed. It must have been at that point where he says he found justification for abandonment of an open tender system. So can he confirm that he is not just speaking ad lib, that there is a document, a document by government justifying the departure from, in terms of policy? And also, Honorable Chair, let us remember the provisions of Article 10 of the Constitution. Article 10 inserts the participation of the people at the point of policy formulation and a change of policy. So that, Honorable CS, if indeed government was abandoning this path, having found this justification, you needed to involve people and tell people that going forward, if we are discussing expansion of JKIA or any other national infrastructure projects, we are going to go the PPP way. So that policy change, Chair, we have to locate it in time and a process. Was it a cabinet decision? Who made that decision? And how were the people involved in the decision making?
Chair.
Yes, yes.
I thought we had agreed that all members ask questions, then supplementary are defined.
Oh yeah.
But
I just allowed, because that one was so close to what we're saying.
A point of order about Section 4 that the Minister referred to. It refers to a PPP agreement not being subject to the other act, not the initiation of a procurement. This act oust the other act at a certain stage of the procurement process, the agreement, and you have seen it has given a very elaborate procedure of how getting that agreement position.
All right. Noted. CS?
Chair, as regarding the change of policy and why, I think the question is still why ADANI and whether there was change of policy. I'm trying to locate where there was this feasibility study done and which informed us accordingly. PS, can you assist me very quickly?
Thank you. Chair, we, as Kenya Airports Authority, we did a feasibility study for JKA. That was after doing the National Aviation Policy and the JKA Medium-Term Investment Plan. This feasibility study informed that the JKA requirements for investment amount to $1.63 billion. We received a PAP of a proponent willing to invest close to $2 billion, and we satisfied ourselves that we can move as guided per the Act. Yes, the competitive bidding could have taken place. We start with the request for qualifications, and you go to the second stage of request for proposal. It is a lengthier process. Right now, JKA has a capacity of handling 7.6 million passengers per annum. Last year, we did 8.2 million passengers. That's why you see the long queues. That's why you see a very infrastructure that is really stressed out. And we made a decision to go and admit the PAP.
Excuse me, Chair. I would like to ask a supplementary question on the PS, please, in relation to what he has just answered. Because I believe, Chair, that is actually not the question he was asked. Did the Kenya Airports Authority PS do a feasibility study, do a financial analysis, do an evaluation with the critical sector industries and critical players to make sure that that report, which would have made it possible for us as the oversighting team, should be having it in this list that the PS has presented. That list is not here. So, Chair, I want you to look at this issue by accepting that that agreement, that feasibility study doesn't exist here. The feasibility study we have is been done by a company called ALC, and ALC is not a Kenyan company, and this is why we have these challenges.
Is it the feasibility study on policy? Because you talked about the policy, but PS, before you clarify that.
What you are saying, please,
yes.
Very important.
Yes.
But I want PS to tell us the problem with KAA. Is it financial or management problem? That is what he wants to know. If you've done that, you should have known the problem is financial or management. Why am I saying this, Chair? The CS has said, he talked about Ethiopia, Bole. Bole, Ethiopia, they carried 17 million passengers, 2023, 2024. We carried 8 million passengers. And the profit they're making is $7 billion in a year, same year, including Ethiopia Airlines. So the problem we have, is it financial or is it management? Just tell us.
Maybe on the issue of the policy, where the expression of interest, because that question was asked by Senator Sifuna, sorry. I would want you to clarify on that issue, where did we depart from that policy?
Chair, the proponent as per the Act, as per the PPP Act. But JKA or KA also did its own feasibility report earlier, and it was concluded in February. And that is also an attachment, and it was done by ALG Consulting Group, which is a Spanish consulting firm. And it is part of the attachments that have been submitted today.
Chair.
Senator, before we entertain a point of
the problem financial with KA, yes it is. KA makes around 4 to 5 billion a year. If we are to plan for an investment of 200 billion Kenya shillings.
Excuse me, Chair. The PS is misinforming the House. KAA makes 19 billion shillings a year.
Let's.
He's misinforming the House. It's in this report.
Yes.
So why are you saying 6 billion?
I'm talking about the net. We make 19 billion, but I'm talking about the net, having taken
the net, the profit.
Thanks for the clarification. Thank you.
Yes, the net.
Continue.
4 billion. So if we make 4 billion and we need to invest 200 billion Kenya shillings, it will take us 50 years to raise that amount of money. For the first phase, what is required is 800 million. And you make 790 something, which is 99% of the revenue. We will need to lock that up for the first phase up to 2028 to invest the money that it makes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to Senator Cherargei. Yes, let's go to Senator Cherargei.
Chair, and ask some basic, kindergarten-like questions. Bwana CS, there is a viral video on social media, a young man saying airport imeuziwa kwa muhindi. And that ADANI group, the last 24 hours, the allegations we are having that the Swiss authorities have frozen the ADANI group bank accounts of 310 million Kenya shillings. Waziri, why don't you cancel this deal as of today before you walk out? And I know the president will understand. Number two, what is the consequence in case this deal is brought or halted today as you walk out from here? Before close of business, 5 p.m. Kenyan time. Secondly, your former colleague before the House in November last year, Kipchumba Murkomen, there were 2 Chinese companies and who is Civil Engineering Group and China Aerotechnology Corporation called CATIC, were given an award of 55 billion to build 178,000 square meters terminal, which was designed by Pascal and Watson of London. The information I have is that the government, after the deal was bought, the government paid 4.7 billion Kenyan shillings. What is the position on that matter, Waziri? Number 3, under the PMF Act and the Constitution, why would you prefer privately initiated investment as opposed to open tendering process? Is this a case of money laundering by individuals that want to launder money using this investment at JKIA? Number 4, this PIP by ADANI group of companies, is it only on JKIA, airports, or airstrips, including Karenga airstrip in Kericho, or is it only JKIA restricted on build, operate, and transfer model, Waziri? Number 5, I've heard you talking about stakeholder engagement. In the rulings of court, and many decisions and precedents have been made, stakeholder engagement does not mean public. Even Article 10 of the Constitution, public participation involves even people who are not aware there is an airport or aeroplane. Is it in order for this committee, and what will be a comment, to indicate that public participation was never done as per envisaged by the Constitution? And finally, Chair, I'm happy Senator Okia Okoitio Mtata has raised a question on the legality under Public-Private Partnership Act. The reading of that act is that this deal is anchored on quicksand of fraud, pure manipulation, conmanship, self-aggrandizement, greed, and corruption and larceny and lethargy of the people who want to perpetuate illegality. Chair, you know, when witnesses appear, they assume senators are busy from reading. Although we did Kipchoge 159 in reading documentation, it is out of curiosity that in the board minutes of KA, this will be my conclusion, it is out of curiosity that in the board meeting, there are glaring concerns by the board. Either it was ignored, either it was not dismissed, or some big boy somewhere were playing golf and decided that KA board meeting minutes does not matter. In their observation in this minute 60715 of 2024, consideration of the projects, I will read one paragraph in the interest of time, that KA has to surrender its interest so that the proponent can generate its target revenue. I think that's ADANI group. It was observed, and this meeting was sat. The members of this meeting include our brother, the acting MD, Mr. Henry Ogoye. It was observed that the project has attracted interest from different quarters in government, making it difficult to advance a common position as the government. This is an agency of government arguing that there is no common position on this issue of ADANI decision in these minutes. That the acting, and we would want to know later, Chair, as a supplementary, why Ogoye, how long has he been acting as the MD of Kenya Airports Authority? Because the government in itself is telling, you know, it's one body as a body of Christ in Corinthians. It's like the hand is not trusting the mind or the legs. The government says in one of the entities that there is no common position of the government, and there are other interests. So it means this ADANI deal was being done even outside the KA and the structure engagement through which, who are these interests, such as money laundering. And because it came out, Chair, because somebody questioned, so in their own minutes, Chair, there was no common position on this deal of ADANI, even within government itself. So Waziri, looking at these minutes, and we thank God that you did provide these documents, and that is why we insisted that you provide them in time. Looking at these minutes, either KA was ignored, Either Ministry of Treasury was ignored, and I hope, Chair, as you rule, the Minister of Treasury should also appear, Minister of Treasury, the PS and the DG. Of course, DG, Mr. Chair, should be frog-marched by the IG because he has defied this committee, Chair. So the question is, there is no common position on this matter. So, Waziri, is it in order, as you walk out of this place, to cancel and call off this fraud by ADANI group? That is on page, members, Chair, I think people are looking for it, is page 4, the last attachment of Roman 4. We took a lot of time running about Roman numbers, but it has never helped us in life. But anyway, it is Roman 4 of that minute, Chair. So if Waziri can, Waziri kindly cancel this deal, let's give Kenyans what they want. This, as Abraham Lincoln said, this is our government for the people, fight the people, and for the people. Do what the people want. Cancel this deal, and we end this charade. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Bana CS.
The questions, I think we all agree that Kenyans need a new airport. I don't think that's a doubt. I don't think the questions about ADANI that we are prosecuting is to, I guess, part of the, will help us to go through the public participation, information positive, information negative. We do more better due diligence, but ensure that we do not lose, we do not throw away the baby with the bathwater. It's important, Chair, that this is not an investment that you are investing some few Kenya shillings. It's a very big investment, and would wish to all be working together to seek for way forward on building a new airport. And therefore, the questions that are being raised are very important questions to help us to get down to the bottom in our due diligence and confirm to ourselves and the government of Kenya that we have a serious investor. We do not end up losing the investor, and we don't have an alternative on how to build the airport. So it's important that we, at this stage of the stakeholder information, with the information coming that Senator Cherargei has pointed us to, we do really put them in the matrix of the questions that must be properly answered. Because, Chair, I did spend time in the beginning to show that the process, the PPP process, is basically an on-off, what do you call, a negotiation process. And you don't negotiate by, you do documents. So we basically, as the proponents, JKIA, will do some work, send it over to the PPP Secretariat. We come back, work with our transaction advisor, respond to those challenges, and to an extent that we don't agree and they are deal breakers for us, then we can collapse. But it's also important to know that they are deal breakers for the concessionaire in seeking to invest in Kenya. Because I don't think if we were not, if we were another democracy, or if we were another democracy, we are like many other African countries, you would get somebody trying to build an international airport in some of the difficult countries. More importantly, the minute that Cherargei referred to with respect to KAA board, and those minutes have not gone to the full board, was a concern that serious questions are being raised from different quarters of government. It is attracting the kind of questions we are receiving from the House this morning, and that we still take very positively because we need to do a detailed due diligence to satisfy and answer all those questions. But the minute and the way the whole structure of that para 6 in the minutes was that should we be using senior management, general managers responsible for procurement, finance, and so on and so forth, shouldn't we have a bit of an elevated committee to seriously focus? When you read that minute, it's basically saying let's have a senior team to focus on this transaction so that the way boards are called 4 times in a year to ratify some approvals, we don't get into a situation where the board doesn't quite understand this transaction. That is what that item, it was observed that the project has attracted interest from different quarters in government, making it difficult to advance common position as the government. The board sought clarification as to whether KA management had internal committee with KA position on all aspects of the project, and it was reported that the negotiations were being undertaken by KA, represented by general managers responsible for procurement, finance, human resource, JKI legal representative for PPP Directorate, Attorney General, and so on and so forth. The committee recommended that KAA should ensure strict so it was basically being elevated to give the level of attention at the board level and ensure that even as the full board is advised, there is a focal point in a committee of the board that basically fully understands this transaction, and therefore the kind of hard questions that we are being asked, and which I do indicate as minister that we take them very positively. We need to interrogate, we need to get to the bottom of our due diligence. It's not like we are the rich boy in town with all the money to be able to build an airport. If you check those minutes, it does also recognize the fact that JKI does not have capacity to build a new airport, which has been articulated by the PS from the bottom line, 19 billion revenue. There's an expenditure of 13 billion, 11 billion, and therefore, if we were to build an airport with own source revenue, we'll be doing it in 50 years. The airport we have, Chair, is, let me stop there. It's becoming narrative. But more importantly, yes, all the information, negative, positive, will help us to really ensure that we do a thorough due diligence, and it is a process ongoing now. To the extent, Chair, that we canceled the deal. We don't have a deal. We're just negotiating. We're just negotiating. We don't have a deal. Absolutely.
Point of order.
Thank you very much, Banasias. This is a written submission by Senator of Mandera, Senator Ali Roba, who, as you know, is also a former pilot. So probably he's well traveled, and there's a document I'm going to. Current pilot. Okay. All right. Well corrected. He's a captain, and he's agreeing with most of us and everyone and every Kenyan that BOTs are not bad. What we are looking at is the deal, and he has given an example of about 10 airports that are built through BOTs. I just want to highlight 3 of them. Istanbul Airport, Turkey, BOT with a 25-year concession. Indira Gandhi International Airport, India, 30-year concession, extendable by another 30 years. LaGuardia Airport, Terminal B, New York, USA, 35-year lease agreement. So in other words, nobody is really fighting, inviting investors and BOTs. What we are trying to do is the processes. And he highlights down here, which I'm going to read, that after even giving the benefits of BOT model for JKIA, that is access to private capital, risk sharing and innovation, economic growth and connectivity and all that, he argues, while I advocate for the BOT model as an effective strategy for the expansion of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, I must express my strong opposition to partnering with the ADANI group for this critical project. This position is based on significant integrity concern associated with the company. And he goes on highlighting the 3. Let me just read the headlines. Integrity concerns and financial misconduct, regulatory scrutiny and controversies, potential reputational damage. He has even given a recommendation which the committee will go through when we retreat to write our report. But from this, I will ask only one question. Since the ministry or the PPP, the director of PPP or the KAA have not done due diligence, what if when we retreat to write this report, we were to resolve that we do that work for you by summoning ADANI to appear before this committee? What would you just say? But I see it.
Thank you, Chair, and you have rightfully really brought out the fact that we consume all this information to help inform our due diligence. You can see the positives, the negatives, but to the extent that a due diligence has got certain rules of engagement in terms of how some of these things are submitted. I don't think it will be fair, like you said earlier, if you did a due diligence of Chirchir or my colleague Hassan Joe on the internet, you'd not be having the ministers serving the country from where we sit today if you were to do that. Equally, maybe if you did one of Onyonka. So, Chair, let's follow the due diligence and submission of information in the due process, appear before the House as we are appearing today, prosecute the process that we are going through, and ensure that we all get involved, not just in shooting down an investor who could end up helping Kenya, and we end up really saying, look, we don't care whether we have a road in northern Kenya, we don't care whether we have power. We need power for our people. We are leaders. We need to provide service to our leaders. Let's critique, like we are doing constructively, and get to the bottom of some of those negative information using credible source of information. We'll demand information credibly, and we'll take them through the due process and confirm. But let's not also act like there are so many investors willing to come into Kenya. If there were, we would not be struggling with the capitation for schools today, with the challenges in our universities. We need to put social investments into health, education, and the areas we need to put. We don't have a headroom.
And scrutinize every other document so that we can give a report or resolution as per the committee. So, members, let the CS complete.
So, just to finish and straight and clear, since we are doing due diligence, we'll basically have that information submitted by Senator Ali Roba, and I can assure you, Chairman, it will form some of the fundamental questions as we go through the due diligence to satisfy ourselves that is ADANI a suitable investor or concessionaire to build an airport for us or not. And to a very good extent, Chair, if Senate was to use that information to say, then we all become part of the negotiating team. So allow us to run through the due process with that kind of information that can be volunteered to the committee, and when we come back to the House, we can be able to articulate and answer what we found out and why we decide to go forward or not. When I say we shall, it's not because there is a deal. Those are deal breakers. If the shall doesn't work out in terms of what we are saying as a government, we must get this and we must get that. Those are deal breakers. We are not saying, because then if they don't conform to our deal breaking requirements, then we don't have a deal. So it's not that the deal has been done. We must get certain fundamentals right to be able to protect job security, to be able to ensure that our airport remains competitive. We are not just charging too much service charges at the airport and therefore giving away the opportunity, tourist opportunity to Ethiopia, to Tanzania, and other countries. So, Chair, the shall is a question of the deal breakers that we must get. And if Senate feels like we should also have more deal breakers in this deal that we should negotiate, let's allow the negotiating team to use those deal breakers to make or break as opposed to breaking it when they have not said no. Thank you, Chair.
I think now we have to give closing remarks.
Chair, I think
Senator Onyonka.
Yeah, Chair.
Sorry.
CS, thanks for coming. And as I said yesterday as my classmate, I hope that whatever we say here, you'll deliver it to the President, because he needs to listen to what some of us have been saying. First of all, Chair, I'd like to make a special statement from myself that it was not easy for me to get information about ADANI. This information came to me from a young man who's called Nelson Amenya, who lives in France. The young man sits in one of the investment companies in France, and he saw these documents pass on his desk. when he called me, the information that I was speaking made me, first of all, get worried about himself, because as you realize, Chair, I actually publicly have stated that the information Nelson Amenya has given me as of 3 days ago is that he has found some people who are following him in France, and he has actually, we have been talking to some people to create a safe haven for him so that he can be siphoned out of France. That's how delicate and personal this matter is to some of us. So, CS, I would like to, if you come across any of your friends who have been participating in this thing, tell them to leave Amenya alone. Tell them what we are trying to do is discussing issues about either we accept that Kenya is going to be a country of public good or is going to be a country of private good. And what we are saying is that we have information that we are going to table here, and I will tell you, my CS, some of these things are shocking, completely shocking. I would like to ask you, you can answer or you can keep the information and answer me before. Chair, I will start with asking the CS. Do you know somebody called Jayesh Saini?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. How do you know him?
I think he's in the health industry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Would I be wrong if I said that Mr. Jayesh Saini is the one who has actually been given the transaction of managing our SHIF, which is the new development out of NHIF, because he's the owner of Nairobi West Hospital, and he is the one who is actually been given the complete system of the financial management of the SHIF system.
Point of order. I would want, Senator, we restrict ourselves to the mandate.
Chair, I think you're wrong.
No,
you're wrong, Chair. There's a reason why. You have to allow me to interrogate the matter. You must allow me to interrogate the matter to its logical conclusion.
Let me explain.
Then you can make a ruling.
And when you get out of the rail...
I am not. There's a relationship between the corruption that is happening with the ADANI deal and what Mr. Jayesh is doing.
Because
so, Mr. Chair, don't get keep for him. Please don't.
No.
Point of order, Chair.
Don't get keep for him. You are going the wrong way, Chair.
Senator Onyonka, just 1 minute, please. Yes. Chair, it is quite somewhere that Onyonka...
There is a nexus. I'm trying to create the nexus. Allow me to make my case.
Senator Onyonka, allow him. Just let me explain something, Chair. It is possible that there is somewhere that Senator Onyonka is driving at.
That is where I'm going.
Just
allow me to go where I'm going.
Senator Onyonka, you're out of order.
Yes, he is not listening. And I'm trying to
correct. Your SG, I am telling you now you're out of order.
No, Chair, you protect Senator Onyonka? Because if now Senator Sifuna invokes the power of being an SG, he might chicken out from pursuing a
I'm on the mic to just guide the Chair.
Yes.
I was saying it is possible there is somewhere in terms of nexus, you allow him to, and I don't want to use his aviation analogy, let him land the point. Let's see where he's going with it. Just give him a little bit.
I was afraid of getting out of context and losing Kenyans, because the issue we are dealing with is the issue of the airport, JKIA. So I thought he has lost his
Chair, I am giving you
by talking about health.
There is a nexus.
No, I was just trying to bring him to
allow me to set it up.
Okay, now ask your question.
The question I'm asking, I asked him, does he know Jayesh Saini? He said yes. Allow me to interrogate him.
Continue, you have
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. CS, would I be wrong to say that Mr. Saini is the agent of ADANI in Kenya? The answer is yes or no. It's up to you.
I'm not aware.
You're not aware. Are you also aware that meetings that took place in Dubai where this deal was being discussed, Mr. Jayesh Saini was sitting in that meeting with individuals from the Kenyan government, and I will state here that the person who met Mr. Jayesh Saini in Dubai was Honorable Murkomen when he was the minister in the position you are in?
I am not aware.
Without having evidence that I can prove, but I think it's important that I make the statement that in that meeting, that money exchanged hands. And Chair, later on, I believe as we continue, these details should be presented to this House. The second issue I wanted to ask the CS, in your understanding, I want you to go to where Honorable Cherargei was. You go to page, Chair, we start with the consideration of the project progress. Minute 6. I want you to go there, Chair. And your MD of KAA could answer this because it directly involves him, but again, it is under your jurisdiction. A PPP project is considered under the following factors: value for money, affordability, commercial value, manageability, and acceptability. The PIP by AHL was submitted on the 1st of March. The evaluation report submitted to the PPP committee on the 8th of March. On the 13th of March, they conducted a feasibility study. And on the 28th of March, submitted a feasibility study report on the 3rd of May. During that period, if you notice, this is only 1 month. Is that possible that this could be done?
Like you did say, I will allow the CEO to answer that, but this is the feasibility study that I did call in my opening remarks, in my opening response, an initial desktop due diligence was done by KAA and the PPP Directorate. So to the extent that you are just getting information desktop from the internet, from which airports they are built, like what we've gotten from the letter from Senator Roba, that could be done in a day.
You've not answered my question, sir. This report, I repeat it to you, please, I'll be very slow. The PPP project is considered under the following factors: value for money, affordability, commercial value, manageability, and acceptability. The PIP by AHL was submitted on the 1st of March. Please write that date down. Yeah. After that, the evaluation report, which was submitted, was done on the 8th of March. Next, on the 13th of March, they also ended up conducting another feasibility study. Then on the 28th of March, they submitted a feasibility study report, I believe, to your committee for approval. The question I'm asking you, in a period of 30 days, do you believe that somebody can actually get into our airport infrastructure, do a feasibility study, talk to the people who work there, talk to all the stakeholders, and then make a presentation that you use as a CS and make a logical conclusion about this exercise?
I think, Chair, what we're basically saying is PIP, privately initiated proposal, has been submitted to JKIA on that date. They could just submit it to the PPP committee with a covering letter.
So you agree that they actually did the feasibility and finished and gave you all the...
That's why I called it a desktop. They are basically saying we've
No. In this statement, there's nowhere they have said it is desktop.
It is only...
There's nowhere.
But I've clarified in my submission.
No, but the report you've given me in your clarification means if you clarify, it changes the statement I have. So the answer I expect you to give me here is yes.
It can be done.
It can be done.
It is just one stage out of the 20 stages.
Thank you.
Of submitting the proposal to the PPP that we have read. We have done some preliminary work, and we are submitting to the committee for consideration.
Thank you.
It can be done.
Go back to where Honorable Cherargei was, and he said there were different quarters in government who had an issue about. That is the board. That is the board telling you that this report which is being tabled, there are certain individuals in government, and this comes immediately after this feasibility study, after this report. You are saying that it can be done. In 30 days, individuals were sitting and telling us that our airport, which is worth 1.2 trillion shillings, can actually be given to somebody at 136 billion shillings for a period of 35 years or whatever it is. Did it occur to you, Bwana Waziri, that when people in government have an interest in this matter, what did it mean to you? Because we didn't know. So I'm talking to you as an outsider. What was your interpretation of this?
Like I've said, Chair, on again and again, we've not had many PPP projects succeeding in Kenya. And even as we sit here, we are asking ourselves, should it be PPPD, should it be PPP? And therefore, was the board privy to the full runway of the PPP process? Did it mean submitting it to the Treasury was for approval? No, it was going to stage 2, it would go to stage 3, it could go to stage 5. We're currently doing a detailed due diligence, a proper due diligence that you visit, you answer you look at all the details, and by the time you reach stage number 20, it will possibly be a procurement cycle that is taking a whole year. So to the extent that we are employing PPP for mega projects because we don't have the kind of outlay capital to invest. Somebody's possibly asking also in KAA, why not competitive PPDD process and so on and so forth. But this is just stage 2 of the 20 stages, Honorable Chair.
CS.
But let me allow.
CS, just a minute.
Yeah.
Through the chair, Senator.
Through the chair, thank you, Chair. CS, that's not what I asked you about. You are a cabinet secretary in government. You have gotten a document that has been written by a board. Let's assume this board is Sony Sugar. And members of the board tell you, you want to hold a PPP exercise in this factory. We are uncomfortable with it because we have received information that some of your government officials and people, big-time players in your government, have an interest in that matter. What does that imply to you?
Yes, and the CS is the one who's taken oath. If the acting managing director wants to answer, he has to do so with permission from the CS. But you cannot just jump in. Okay. This is not a chicken coop.
Is well advised?
It is, and the CS should allow you to take the microphone. Yeah. But I understand you don't understand, so we accept that.
Assist in answering questions.
I'll do that, Chair. I think to the extent that we've received a PIP proposal to basically build an airport that we've been desiring to build for 13, 14, 15 years. If I received a PPP proposal today for Mausami Duroni, I'll possibly be trying to push it within the next 1 week to ask ourselves, is it true that somebody can build for us this road? It's not something that I want to sit on in my office. I'll possibly be talking to everybody and saying, we have this proposal, can it work? And therefore, depending on the agency, there could be interest. There's no question about that. But I did say, Chair, that I've just gone back to my step 1 to step 20 to the extent that even if the board was sitting to consider this, there's a whole due process that everybody must be satisfied, including why we are appearing in Senate today, to answer some of those difficult questions, some of the simple questions because of lack of information, and be able to satisfy everybody that the due process must be followed to the extent of availing ourselves a new airport or starting the process again. Why don't you allow me to basically get...
I'm satisfied with your answer.
Thank you.
Because I realize you're taking me where I don't want to go. The question I wanted to ask, Chair, is very simple. Who delivered the report, the evaluation report, and how was it delivered to whoever that received it, the proposal?
Should be made clear in terms of, is it the delivery process or...
You see, there is, if you look at about how the board met, and in a period of 30 days, there was everything that was taking place, and that was geared towards producing a report to justify and prove why this is a very good deal. Who delivered that report, and when did they deliver it? And how did they deliver it? There's a reason why I'm asking that question.
Please, I think they took so long if we really needed an airport. If you receive that today, it would be out of...
I'm looking at the documents you gave me. You are the one who gave me the document.
Point of order, Chair. I think the CS should give us, should respect. We're not talking to some nursery school kids. Respect our intelligence and address us as adults and address us as senators of the Republic of Kenya.
Are you addressing Chirchir or addressing the chair?
I'm addressing
I think the best thing for us to do, when a question is directed to you, just be direct to the point,
And
to
simple.
avoid, you know, and answer. If you know the answer, I say I do. If you don't, we are lenient as a committee. We can always read between the lines. So kindly, and also, it's also good for us to know that we are governed by the standing orders. And I'm really withholding, you know, invoking some of the standing orders, like standing order 105, which is a statement of facts, whenever we are interacting with this department or with this issue. So let's restrain ourselves to the issue at hand, which brought us to this committee.
Chair,
By so doing, we'll be able to get answers. And that's why, if initially when we started, remember we were giving every senator about 3 minutes, so that you ask your questions and you get response. So the moment you bring this kind of interaction, you will have point of orders, and we might lose the point that you want to execute.
I actually nearly want to agree with you, but let me tell you why I'm cross-examining the CS.
No, proceed with
the
your
reason.
questions.
Please allow me. There's a very good reason I want to do that.
Chair, with the permission of Senator Onyonka, you know, yesterday I said something about CS Chirchir. He's one of the few people, out of my interactions with cabinet secretaries, and you know I have a very low opinion of the cabinet, but he's who is usually very forthright. So, Honorable CS, I am, you remember I owe you something. Congratulations. Please don't get derailed. I need you to be the same forthright person. If something is wrong, Honorable CS, the CS that I know, will say it is wrong. And it was not you. You are not there. Yeah, so throw people under the bus if you must, but you must retain.
Maybe Senator Onyonka is scaring him.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. My former year mate in the university, we love each other. We've spent quite a bit of time together. Yes. I'm just trying to make sure we get the truth about this. The next question I want to ask, actually, Chair, through you, is not to the CS. I want to ask the gentleman who has been acting. And you said your name is who?
Henry Ogoye.
How long have you been at the airport?
Since 2006.
Since 2006. Please allow me to interrogate this. Chair, I would like to present this document to you because it's a public document. That is the report that was done by Honorable Kosing under the Hansard, and that report, very, very fortunately, Chair, our Deputy Chair was in that committee. My current Deputy President, Honorable Gachagua, was in that committee, and the other person who was in that committee was Honorable the Solicitor General, Mr. Mose, Shadrach Mose. Why do you think the report which came 2018, and it was saying that we cannot give our airport under the PPP arrangement, why did the committee make recommendations that that should be stopped? And when did the government change the policy? The same question that Honorable Sifuna is asking. For us not doing competitive bidding to do our airport, and decided that we are now going to give this to ADANI because you were there.
And as you answer that, clarify, because you have said you have been there since 2006, and at what capacity, or which capacity have you been since 2006?
Through my CS, thank you. I joined the Airport Authority from Kenya Electric Generating Company in 2006. And up to the time I took over as the acting CEO, I was the one in charge of strategy in the authority. Yeah, from
through Chair, which means he knows everything that has been happening from the last 10 years.
So in terms of what Senator Onyonka is asking is that I do remember that Kenya Airways had at one time wanted to take over the airport. And one thing which should be very clear to the committee here is that running an airline business is quite different from running an airport. It is just like the way judges and advocates meet in court.
Point of order, Chair.
Yeah, I think it's better we let
Yeah, but Ethiopia Airlines, are running Bole Airport.
Before,
Absolutely.
let's every member execute their point. You cannot inject on every...
Airways made a proposal to take over JKI to run. Even the capital expenditure was even not clear what they were going to do. The interest was not the fact that they wanted to invest in it, but the interest was on some other things. Having gone through the entire process, memoranda were submitted, it was decided that it was not the wisest move to do.
Thank you, Chair. So,
just on a point of order, allow me on that particular point, because Senator Onyonka has asked a very, very important question and has submitted findings of this. The airport is governed under the Kenya Airports Act, which was established in 1991. And if you read that act clearly, it talks about the objective of that act, and it talks about the roles of the KAA. The PS, when asked the question whether ADANI is going to be taking over the entire operation, said yes, or he answered to the affirmative. Now, does it mean that we are now going to use a PPP to amend an act of parliament by giving away? And it is very, very clear. It actually says to operate, KA is a state-owned enterprise established in 1991 under the Kenya Airports Authority Act, Chapter 395 of the laws of Kenya. And the role is to manage, operate civil airports, airstrip across Kenya. So are you telling me you're now, first of all, going to amend that act so that you exclude JKIA, so that you can be able to send it out, to run it differently?
Honorable Chair, ways of running our business. There are businesses we can run directly. There are businesses which we run through the support of the private sector. Like we run a number of concessions across the network. What we've run into is the fact that we don't have the financial muscle to expand the infrastructure at JKIA. The infrastructure is 10 years behind. If we look at our balance sheet, we are not able to address that infrastructure deficit. And that's why it came to us that can we invoke the PPP Act 2021 to address that deficit. The fact that we are going to concession part of the airport for purposes of aeronautical facilities. When I talk of aeronautical, I mean the airside, things to do with the runway, the parking bays, the terminal building. It don't mean that we are going to vacate our responsibility. In any case, there is no operator which will operate at the airport without being supervised by Kenya Airports Authority.
Chair, could I proceed, please?
How many minutes do you need? Because I think you have 5 more minutes.
Mr. Ogoye, you have been in civil aviation for how long? Through you, Chair.
For 19 years.
Thank you. When you were negotiating with ADANI, you understand how the Kenyan civil aviation infrastructure is set up vis-a-vis the private, civil aspects of our aviation and the military aspect of aviation. Did you decide or even think of negotiating with ADANI what they are going to do with our military presence? Because we use the radar at the airport is used by our military and also by civil aviation.
Honorable, we have something called the common services.
Wait, an agreement with who?
No. We've already shared with you the heads of terms.
Yes.
Heads of terms is a summary of negotiation items.
Yes.
Within that set of terms, there are certain common use services which have been identified. And even the fact that...
I want to help you. Have you ever seen any country in the world that gives its civil or military aviation responsibility to a private company to run?
You see, ADANI, when any concessionaire who is coming to operate the airport will confine itself to the commercial side of the airspace, not the military side of the airspace.
Through you, Chair, how would they do it unless the military has bought its own radar?
I think if you are aware, the way the airport, the civil aviation is structured in the country, Kenya Civil Aviation Authority is in charge of the airspace management. and any airport operator must comply with the requirements of Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. Just like Kenya Airports Authority complies, any concessionaire who comes on board must also salute that regulation in terms of responsibility with respect to the usage of the airspace.
So through you, Chair, what you are actually telling me is that yes, all the air traffic controllers that we have in the Republic of Kenya would not be interfered with by ADANI.
I can confirm.
Where is that agreement?
It is hosted by Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. Because
would you be candid enough and agree to table it when we are meeting here next?
I would suggest, in the interest of separation of responsibility, that you direct the PS, our PS, to invite the DG or KCA to come and confirm that.
Whether you want the PS to bring it or the CS, my argument, I'm saying that agreement was not delivered to us, and I would like to be presented.
Because it was not.
The next thing I want to raise, Chair, is asking there is an amount that is supposed to be paid as a fixed concession amount in this agreement, $47 million. Who's supposed to pay it?
The concession fee that is being negotiated right now stands at $50 million to be paid by the proponent.
Who is supposed to pay?
The proponent, that is ADANI.
And if you don't, that is not true. So I'll ask my colleague to present that information. We are the ones who are actually supposed to pay that amount of money in case we don't oblige to agreement, particularly if that agreement has been signed. So I want to raise the issue. Go to page 38, section 7.4, preliminary financial proposal. Yes. Thank you.
Are we discussing the proposal or the agreement?
It's on the report.
No. What I'm trying to say
is the proposal that ADANI is presenting to Kenya.
Which the country, as per the CS,
yes,
had said, they have not gone to the point of the agreement.
No, but so it's good for Kenyans.
The draft proposal.
Chair, it's good for Kenyans to know what we're getting into. That is it. Yeah, let's see the baby. Let's see how they've dressed up this baby. As indicated on table 8 below, we are proposing a fixed concession fee as consideration for the contracting authority. For the base year, the fixed concession fee is provisionally estimated to be at USD 47 million to be updated post-feasibility study. So it could go to $100 million US. Some of the assumptions underlying this proposal include projected aero revenues, which are based on competitive assessment of JKIA's historical and current aero charges. We, as a country, will pay that, right?
No, that is not
what is this about?
This comes from the proposal.
Can I, Chair, through you, please? And I'm not being rude. You'll forgive me, PS. I'd rather ask my legal team to interpret this for us, Chair.
You see, and that's why I was asking,
yes,
Senator, so that we don't be seen to be discussing a document that is a proposal, as the CS has said, that they
Chair, this is what it tabled.
No. Just
this is what
let me come out clear. Yeah,
let
me come out clear, because you see, a proposal just is a draft. That's what we want to understand. And then, if you can just listen to me, and that's why, because we don't want to take the committee's time to discuss a document that is already discarded or will be discarded.
Chair, can I help?
What I would want us to deal with
a lot of humility.
What I would want
with
us
a
to
lot
deal
of humility, Chair.
Yes. What I would want us to deal
Could I please say something?
What would I want us to deal with is that, according to the CS, and I want just to direct the path that we have to take, so that we don't even discuss the colors, we don't discuss the letters, we don't discuss all those things. What we need to discuss, as per the CS, is what he has submitted, what he has said it's not being dealt with, or they have not gone to that point. Do you think it would be proper to take Kenyans through a document that is already nowhere?
Absolutely, Chair. Through you, let me ask you, Chair, when you wanted to marry somebody, wouldn't you want them to tell you what kind of wedding they want to hold?
Just 1 minute,
it's okay.
That would determine your judgment.
No.
The point, Chair, the point I'm making is, and I say this with a lot of humility, Chair, don't gatekeep for them.
I'm not getting. I'm just.
Chair,
I'm just
this
correcting
is
the time.
their document.
Can I help, Chair?
Yes, yes.
Senator,
This is their
just
document.
Just 1 minute, Chair. You see, the Senator is reading from the ADANI proposal. Perhaps what you could direct that the CS responds to, just like we dealt with, you remember when I read the proposal, original proposal from ADANI saying the runway is not a priority, they would have to evaluate traffic and see if it is necessary. So the ministry should tell us this proposal on a fixed concession fee, how have they treated it? Because it's a proposal, it's not a draft. This is a proposal that was received from ADANI. During the course of the negotiations that are going on, how has the Ministry of KA treated this proposal? That's all they need to say.
And I believe the CS, I'm not trying to, I'm just trying directions, because the first question that the CS said here is that there is no agreement, it is just a proposal. So the question is, and I want members also to go along with me, is whether you would want to discuss a love letter or that proposal or marriage certificate.
Chair, it is not also correct.
Because and I want it, I don't want to be seen that I'm stopping Senator Onyonka from executing his point. My point is as easy as that. The CSA, there's no agreement, there's no Chair, proposal. So do you want us to spend time?
Allow me to guide you on one thing, Chair.
Yes.
It is not correct, by the way, to say there is no agreement. The KA should be saying there is no final agreement, because the head of terms is an agreement. So what they need to tell you is how have they treated this proposal on a fixed concession fee? How do they understand it? How have they treated it? In now, when you look at the agreement or the heads of terms, how have they treated it? Because they have been explaining how they have treated the other proposals.
Explain that very briefly.
The heads of terms, which 12.4, which basically defines the concession fee, and where the head of terms, though non-binding, has brought out what has been kind of agreed, we will be able to answer Senator Onyonka's question. Page 20.
Chair, through you, Chair.
Yeah, proceed.
I would like to state that a permanent means that in case we sign this agreement and ADANI does not make any money whatsoever, or if anything goes wrong, then we will have to pay that money depending on what it is on a yearly basis, whether they make a profit or not. Mr. Goya, am I right or have misinterpreted this agreement?
Okay. Honorable Chair, as you may be aware, we run a network of 22 airports. Among them, JKIA is the major operator. When we are concessioning out JKIA, the other airports have to operate. And to meet that requirement, we need a concession fee from the concessionaire. When they submitted the proposal, they made a proposal that they will be paying KA on annual basis $47 million to take care of other requirements. In the negotiation, we negotiated up to what, $50 million, and it is resident in the heads of terms item 2.4, which my honorable CS has referred to, 12.4.
So, Chair, and you are comfortable with that figure?
We are comfortable with this figure because what this figure is supposed to do is to help us repay the outstanding loans, run the operations of the other facilities, over and above the revenues which are being generated.
Why was the loans which we have not included in the list that you on that concessionaire clause? Because we know what the airport owes.
What we've done is that this...
Just hold on before I finish through you, Chair. And if the airport reached a stage and the debts were paid, who would be receiving that money?
This money will continue to be received by KA because KA is also...
I told you that there is a section of this agreement where actually at some point KA is going to have to relinquish the responsibility of running that airport.
No.
Which you agreed to.
Honorable Chair, there is no day KA will vacate the management of JKIA.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Now, the next question I want to ask Chair, because I don't have a lot. He called CS. I am a bit uncomfortable because you are not there, but I'm sure because of institutional memory, your teams would most probably, the company called LG, that is providing the evaluation and analysis, the financial, how was it recruited? Did you advertise for this job?
Yeah. Let me put it like this, Honorable Chair. LG is the one which advised the government. Yes.
Excuse me, Chair. Answer the question. Don't tell me the story of
Okay,
what
for
LG does.
For the feasibility study,
whatever that was
we
done.
are the ones who recruited LG.
Did you advertise for them to be recruited?
We never,
according to the procurement law.
What happened was that, and that one.
The answer is yes or no.
Give the MD an opportunity to answer you.
Yeah, these are yes or no. When you see somebody is lying,
yes
they will start
no
telling you a story.
I mean,
I just want him to say yes.
We
did tendering.
That's the way I've given you an
or
opportunity to ask question. Give them a chance to answer a question.
Honourable Senator, to inform the public, and therefore we have to give you the right information to inform the public. What happened was that way back in 2022, ALG did the National Aviation Policy and Medium-Term Investment Plan for the government of Kenya under the directorship of the PPP Directorate. Because the report was high level, we wanted to have a detailed feasibility study. So we wrote on their institutional memory and the fact that they had data. So we recruited them directly to do for us the feasibility study.
Chair, help me.
You got your answer. They recruited directly. Next question.
You did direct procurement for a company that is going to do an evaluation and giving an history and that is going to tell us the valuation of our asset, and you didn't follow the law. Right?
We saluted the law to the letter.
You didn't follow the law. So I come to the next question, Chair. There's a reason why I asked that question. When you decided that you are now going to actually bring in ADANI and they are supposed to be running our airport and there are other things that they are going to do, at what stage do you feel that when you are allowing ADANI to come into the airport and when you brought in AIG to come in and these discussions are going on, did you feel there was a necessity for you to start engaging the stakeholders, particularly the workers of the airport and including the business interests and the people who are running the businesses at the airport? Did you conduct feasibility studies before you and ADANI could sit down so that you get the direction the public is thinking, or did you decide that the public was not needed in making that decision?
As I mentioned earlier, ALG did for us a feasibility study upon which we got the numbers now to engage. Now, in terms of engaging the workers and the other stakeholders of the airport, we were not in a position where we had the concretized information which we could now discuss with the concerned stakeholders. And that's why we waited for the heads of terms to be ready, things cleared, so that we have something which we can discuss, which we can share with the concerned stakeholders. I submit, Chair.
So through you, Chair, there was no need to call these people. After all, as far as I'm concerned, AIG is basically an illegal entity that has been conducting exercises without authority. So I will come to the next question very quickly, Chair. You have mentioned that there was no any other private organization or company that gave a proposal for them to also come in and participate in the PPP exercise. The answer I'm going to ask you, my leader, is very simple. Did you receive any report from any other company making a request that they also would want to participate in this exercise?
The only PIP we received was from ADANI Airport Holdings, but not from any other party. PIP.
Through you, Chair, did you find that normal? That one company, let's assume I am a senator and I want to construct a stadium. Would it be normal that if I woke up one morning and found one company that is telling me we'll do the stadium for you, we'll be collecting the figures from the gates and entrances and everything, and this is what we're going to do, would you just proceed and say, yes, come, let's proceed?
Honorable Chair, that's why there's nothing which has been given to ADANI, and that's why we've subjected it to the due process. And within that due process, if things turn out to be that we can't sign a deal, then it will be it. So it is not something which is concluded.
So through you, Chair, when you then brought in ADANI and you started engaging with them, lately we have seen certain individuals who presumably are members of the ADANI group and who presumably are being protected by security agents around the airport going around. Why has that been controversial since you've agreed on this wonderful proposal how ADANI is excellent in performing their duties? Why do you go there at night? Why do you carry police officers? What is so complex with you as an MD that you lock yourself in the office until police officers pick you from there?
Chair, police officers have never picked me from the office. Yes, I work freely. But let me put it this way. ADANI has to do due diligence for them to check if the capital expenditure which they want to put in is what is realistic. Even Kenya Airports Authority has proceeded to do due diligence to check if ADANI is the party to deal with. And it is at the conclusion of this that a decision will be made whether it is a proposal worth carrying forward or it can be put in the cells.
One minute, Senator.
You just give me 2 minutes. Last question, second last question I wanted to ask. It has gone and looked for the Qatari Airlines, who have done an airport for them at $1.2 billion, and they have given the Rwandese government 42 Boeing 737s, which they are going to enhance on their Rwanda Air. Ethiopian Airlines have linked up with the Emirates, and they are proceeded, and they are going to receive a brand new airport, and they are also receiving about 60 aeroplanes from the Qataris. What is it that ADANI is giving you? They are not building you a new airport. They are not giving you any aeroplanes. And basically, this whole concession and discussion, to me, looks like one of these scandals that we lack manufacturing in Kenya for us to siphon off funds because you think all of us are idiots and we are not able to read these things. Could I be wrong if I assume that this is one of the biggest con jobs that the Kenyan public has ever witnessed?
Yeah. As the accounting officer, we are dealing with the documents which have been brought to us, subjecting them to the due process and making a determination within the law. The arrangement in Rwanda is based on joint ventureship. I don't know the one in Ethiopia, but at the end of it, I think we'll subject this one to the due process of the law and make a determination or a decision which is good for the people of Kenya.
Are you comfortable, through you, Chair, final question,
the last question.
Are you comfortable as somebody who's been in an acting capacity at that airport, that what is happening is above board and you're comfortable with it, and you tell your grandchildren that is the best you could have done? That question is to you and my comrade brother who went to university with me, CS. Are you, all three of you, comfortable that this is the best you could offer our country?
I think this is very useful engagement, Chair, and what we've been able to do today to answer that question directly is to define the process of the PPP, articulate where we are today, doing the due diligence, and a lot of questions that are being asked today are relevant questions that we need to put on the table and get satisfactory answers on behalf of the people of Kenya, come to Parliament, go through the due process, and therefore, even as we do the due diligence on this investor, they are not bringing some little money to Kenya to invest. They will do due diligence on us. And whereas we may think that this deal, as we go through the due diligence and the stakeholder engagement, is not good, they may also find it not fit for them as they do the due diligence on us. So, in line with the law, the PPP Act, which we have spent so much time indicating some 20 processes in terms of interpreting the law, I think it's only fair to go through the due process, have this engagement that we have not had before, unfortunately, to be able to bring everybody to speed, bring Kenyan to speed, and ensure that we do go through every stage and satisfy ourselves to the extent that before the documents are executed, everybody, and that's why it will go to the AG for legal opinion, it will go to the National Treasury to look at the value for money, it will then go to Cabinet to act on behalf of all of us, and we can be summoned anytime under the portfolio of oversighting, and will be available to provide any information at any time as we go through the due process. Chair, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think
Remarks.
closing remarks. So
Thank you.
Use your closing remarks, yes.
CS, I have a message for you. Because you've been my friend for many, I think 35 years. I have high regard for you. You notice I've never had issues with you. Please tell the president this is a bad deal. He can reconfigure it. He can get a better company which has got respect, which is respected globally. If he can't get Emirates or Qatari, he can get Etihad. We understand that they are bilaterals. We understand, I worked in foreign affairs. We know that there are certain arrangements and agreements the president can sign to benefit the country. Please tell him this thing is a stinker. Let's do it within the law. Kenyans are really upset with what is going on right now. And please, whatever you saw happening at that airport, don't take it for granted. Those people are very, very upset. Their lives are in jeopardy. You're talking about 5,000, 6,000 people. Nobody knows what this agreement is. Simplify it. Bring it to this committee. Give them a program. Tell them, look at this agreement. This is what we are looking at. Who would say no? If you come and tell me, like Rwanda, we have resuscitated KQ with 50 or 60 aeroplanes. We have paid the debt that KQ has. You are going to pay our workers who are destitute in that airline, and you are setting up Nairobi to be a hub. Which airline are you going to use to build the numbers that you want? We don't have an airline. You haven't solved the KQ problem. I beg you that this is a matter that Kenyans have taken very seriously. And thank you, sir, for listening to us.
Thank you very much.
Honorable CS Chirchir, I'm sure by now you know that the problem with the government in which you serve is not a communication problem. It is a credibility problem. Nobody trusts this government. And even with your best intentions, you have to work to restore the credibility of the government and public trust in the government that you serve in. Number two, if you can see, the reason why there's a trust deficit is not an accident. Your own minutes from KA, as we have been taken through here, have identified the fact that there are many competing interests, and they have to be vendor-driven interests within government. So Kenyans have every right, Honorable Chair, to be suspicious of this deal. Thirdly, Honorable CS, let me disabuse you of this notion that there are stakeholders in JKIA or in our airports distinct from the people of Kenya. The stakeholders in JKIA are the 55 million of us. You cannot have a small meeting somewhere in a corner, then claim that you have had conversations with stakeholders. Stakeholders in this particular case are the 55 million Kenyans. And the fact that there was lack of disclosure, and I think the committee will be making a recommendation that we make an amendment to the law on PPP. Immediately somebody arrives at your office, Honorable CS, with a so-called privately initiated proposal. Within 48 hours, you must disclose that that email has come to your email account. Otherwise, you are not going to be able to move forward with this. There are serious integrity concerns with the company itself, and of course, with the government that is proposing to go ahead with this particular project. Honorable CS, you know what happened to the finance bill. You know the sort of furor that it brought about. I can compare the objections to the ADANI deal to that where we were with the finance bill. At this particular moment in time, even with your best efforts, and I know you are a very, what is the word? Yes, you are somebody who puts in effort. But I can assure you, CS, it doesn't matter how you explain this deal. The people's mind is made up on ADANI. Please, abandon this deal. We will lose nothing. Go back to the position that had been taken by Cabinet, as expressed by the then Transport CS Murkomen when he appeared before the Senate, that we will put out an international expression of interest. Let this process be above board. In the development and upgrade of JKIA, this PIP model is not going to be available for the government of Kenya. Put it out there in the public. Let people apply. Let the process be open. Let everybody see what proposals are coming from where. I do not agree that there are not many people who want to invest in this country. The reason why people are afraid to invest in this country is because of these games and shenanigans that we are playing within our own governments and systems. So, CS, as the Senator of Nairobi, we are the host of JKIA, all of us are stakeholders, but the people of Nairobi have told me to say no to this deal. Therefore, I want to urge you very strongly, cancel this thing. You will not, even with your best efforts, be able to convince anyone in Kenya today that this is a deal that is above board. Let us go back to public procurement when it comes to this particular deal. I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Sifuna. Senator.
My friend, C.S. Davis Churchill, you should be in the front line rejecting this deal. Even if it has some deal makers of our barrel being forced to do things whether they like it or not. We live in Kenya, and Kenya is a country where people are given incentives to be able to champion certain things which even if they know they are not good. And that's what I mean being over a barrel. We have screwed up our constitution. We have messed up our legislations. We amended the Public Finance Act and made it easy for brokers to be able to come in and lobby for certain projects. This deal stinks. I want to plead with you to abandon it. If you look at the proposed capex investments, it goes in stages, We're a country, we're an industrious nation. I suppose we can definitely raise $99 million to be able to put up a runway. We can be able to raise $624 million to be able to put up a terminal. And if there's any airstrip for $92 million, we can actually be able to do that. I know right now, I've just received a text message from a very good friend, an international deal maker. And he said, ADANI is pissed off. And his message to me was like, Senator, be careful, ADANI is pissed off. We do not want to be held hostage. This is a country that we fight so hard for. This is a country that we expect to leave it for the future generation. And I plead with you, as someone who I know is forthright, if Kenyans don't like it, let's leave it. You know, O.J. Simpson, the lawyer in O.J. Simpson trial once said, if the gloves don't fit, you must acquit. So in this case, Kenyans all over have said, we do not give a hoot in hell about this deal. Leave it. I know for a fact that when people get into government, they line their pockets. If you consider their wealth this year and next year, you will know that it is because of incentive. That's why their wealth has grown. This is a country that has got all the instruments, and it's got all the apparatus to be able to carry out that serious due diligence. The Gen Zs have sent a very strong message. We don't want June 25th to be able to revisit us again. We have to learn, and that is the reason why, even if I'm not a member of this committee, I was in this committee today. Because this deal stinks like hell. So I request you to abandon it. Let us go gradually, slowly by slowly. If once we do, analysis, and we look at our hierarchy of needs, we see that what we really require right now is what do you call it? Not an airport, but a runway. I'm pretty sure, even if we cannot afford, and even if we are not magnanimous enough to give money, we can offer an instructional bond, and people will gladly invest in it. So, Mr. Chairman, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Ledama.
Like the rest of my colleagues, that the verdict of Kenyans on the ADANI deal is that there is no deal, and there should be no deal. And we are privileged to be here, Mr. CS, to deliver the message to you according to the wishes of Kenyans. It will be incumbent upon you to either respond in the affirmative or otherwise, but choices have consequences. Thank you.
Senator Omtata.
Yes. So I'll take you to section 40 clause 3, and I would ask the committee that before you retreat to write your report, the Cabinet Secretary should comply with the section 40 clause 3 paragraph J and produce justification why this project is not suitable for open competitive procurement. Cabinet Secretary, please provide that justification which the law requires as a precondition for going into a PPP. Honorable CS, also refer to at section 40, clause 1 of the Act. It requires you to establish an evaluation criteria for the proposal. I would also request that this committee be served with the evaluation criteria which was established to deal with this proposal. I'll also go to take you back to section 4, which you quoted as a justification for not complying with the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act. That section is very clear that that act applies if there is counterpart funding. And I would ask that you clarify to the committee if the government of Kenya is providing any funding, and what is the status of the government of Kenya entering into direct and substitution agreements with the lenders. I will also persuade of listening to the CS, his argument is that the end justifies the means. And I would like to tell the CS that in Kenya, the end does not justify the means. There's due process, there's rule of law. You must pursue them because even the Auditor General, under Article 229, Clause 6, audits government entities for lawfulness first, then effectiveness second. So as for the reference you keep on making, there was a desktop evaluation. The law does not require superficial evaluation. And there's no provision in the law for evaluation twice. The evaluation is done once, it is thorough and complete. So I would request that the committee be supplied with that evaluation report. These things of reference to the desktop and whatever is nowhere in the law. If it was an evaluation, it's an evaluation that was well done, that's comprehensive and complete. Let us have that evaluation report supplied to the committee. And then finally, as regards to your continuous plea to necessity, it is necessary, it is necessary. I want to give you a quote of what was said on the floor of the House of Commons some 300 years ago by William Pitt the Younger, who was a Prime Minister of Britain twice. He said, necessity is the plea for every infringement of human freedom. It is the argument of tyrants. It is the creed of slaves. In Kenya, we have a democratic government. We don't allow tyrants. And we are citizens. We are not slaves. So please observe the law. There's no option for this government but to observe the law. And what you have presented before us is an attempt not to overthrow the lawful dispensation of this country. You are going against the Constitution. You are going against the laws of this country. And even your 20 points that you are giving here in your return is cherry picking. You have chosen those parts of the law that seem to justify what you have done and given them as 20 steps. I would urge this committee to reject these 20 steps as being a corruption of the law and an attempt to mislead this committee, and demand that the minister complies 100% with the law. And finally, Chairman, I pray that the committee summons the CS for Finance, who is the custodian of this act, so that we can give him appropriate questions. I'm not a member of this committee, but given the enormity of the issue that was before this committee, I've left everything that I was doing to be able to be here. And I would love to meet the Minister for Finance, because I've got issues with the way these things are done, and I'm very, very clear in my mind that CS for transport does not have the standing or the capacity to answer those questions lawfully so that they can go on record lawfully. He's a stranger to the exercise. I fully appreciate the decision of the committee to apply to invite him as maybe in charge of transport, but he is not the custodian of the PPP Act. We would like the custodian of the PPP Act to appear before this committee so that we can give him the heavy lifting we want to do with him as regards the ADANI scam. Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. I think
CS is use this platform. In my opening remarks, I said there is a viral young man who is viral in Facebook saying airport imeuzwa kwa muhindi. Can you just the takeoff as encounter turbulence? Just about the takeoff, Bwana CS, by ensuring that end these negotiations. This thing is becoming ugly, it's becoming chaotic. Just tell the country that there is no deal, there is no negotiations, and we are not objecting the building of new airport or improvement of other airports and airstrips across the country. Finally, Chair, the information I have, in fact, the United States of America government is in confidence that if ADANI does the takeover of JKIA, we might lose even our flights direct to New York, Chair, that is normally scheduled per week, and this will hinder our standing among the international communities. So, as you go back, Bwana CS, you are not there. This is not your baby. This looks like, and it is corruption that it needs to be stopped. Allow ADANI to do other airports in other parts. He's not the only one in the world that he can do that, Chair. Let us get a new investor, and we are not objecting the bill to the airport being constructed. Let it come clear from this meeting. We want a new airport, but we want the due process of the law to be followed, Chair. It is as simple, and value for money, lawfulness and effectiveness, Bwana CS. And even as Kenyans today, I quoted Abraham Lincoln. He says the government is for the people and by the people. Give Kenyans what they want. Just use this platform, courtesy of the Chair, call off the deal. Let's go back, Chair, because if they say, in conclusion, Chair, if it looks like a duck and sounds like a duck and quacks like a duck, it could be a real ugly swan of corruption. Let the ADANI be called off. This deal called off today. Let's begin from a fresh slate. Because Kenyans, even from Nandi County where I come from, they don't want this deal. Not because we have an airport next to us, but because it is the national strategic security infrastructure and we cannot risk. Chair, with those many remarks, I thank you, and I hope when the CS of National Treasury will appear and the DG, in fact, Chair, under Powers and Privileges Act, as you rule on the DG of PPP, he should be summoned and fined and frog-marched by Inspector General of Police to appear before this committee. Because this is the contempt of your committee. This committee has quasi-judicial mechanisms of the High Court. With those, thank you, Chair, for having us who are friends of the committee and giving us. Chair, some of us, if we don't speak to some of these issues, we cannot sleep because Kenyans keep calling us throughout the night. But si ile kuzalamiwa agency, but in good faith, they really want to know. Chair Waziri, and as you go back, please in future, if you have such enormity infrastructure project, kindly give us information early enough so that we don't deal with disinformation, misinformation, and fake news in some of these issues. We wish you well, and we hope you will do better than the former incompetent colleague, because alikuwa anapenda mchezo, tukapeleka yeye kwa mchezo. Asante sana. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Bwana Waziri, you have heard from the members. Members of this committee, friends of this committee, but all members of the Senate of the Republic of Kenya. Mine, as I conclude, so that I can give you a minute so that you can also give your commitment, is to tell you that we didn't have to get where we are. If probably there was no whistleblower, maybe we'll be discussing something different. So, and it has been said here in this committee, make sure the young boy is protected and make sure that no one is doing any harm to the young man who whistleblew this one. And Bwana CS, what has come out here, if there was proper communication, and I repeat that again and again, we wouldn't be here. Kenyans would be with you, because no Kenyan is against the PPP. No Kenyan is against the BOT. No Kenyan is against any investor in this country. The problem is not the deal. The problem is the wheeler dealers, as I had said earlier. So, Bwana Waziri, carry the people with you in these processes, because we are a country that is led by the rule of law. Carry the people with you. When they say stop, you stop. Because if you run, you will find them at the finishing line. So, as we retreat as the committee to write a report, there are things that we will be internalizing. We will require more documentation. We will even require more input from the people. Because as it has been said in section 43J, that there must be a justification why we cannot do this deal competitively. We will be looking into issues like, do we resolve as the committee or the Senate that you re-advertise and invite other proposals? That is something that we'll be pondering. Will we say no ADANI in this country? Those are things as a Senate will be looking into. Will we even decide if the deal is there? Because you said, Bwana Waziri, in your submission on question 1, no concession agreement exists. And you also said, if we were to close this deal, not close, if we were to do away with this deal, Kenya will not lose any money. All right? At least we are happy to hear that. So probably, as we go along in retiring and writing this report, we'll be looking at that issue. Also, Bwana CS, on step 17, that is when the concession agreement is signed and a copy sent to the AG for his records. We'll also be looking into that issue in the sense that whether we get to that, because you never know, I just don't want to anticipate. We might get there, we don't know, but whether we will be requesting before the signing is done, that document is made public. So I believe that those are some of the issues that we'll be looking into. We'll also been requested to summon the CS Treasury. I would want to see him and to appear before this committee. So those are some of the things we are going to be looking into, and especially the DG, Directorate of PPPs. So having said that, let's all remind ourselves that we are working for the people of Kenya. It is going to go down in history that I was the chairman when the ADANI deal went through. Would I want that? You will be the CS, will be down in history, the PS, and also the DG, KAA, the CEO KAA, and the Senate of today. So I believe we are doing this for the betterment or for the sake of our country. So, and I also ask people, we should not just rush to be the fake news peddlers, as well as the disinformation agents. Let's all of us work together to understand what is this thing for our country. Then from there, we move together as a team. So thank you very much, Bwana CS, for coming. It's now, what time is it now? Because it's almost 2. It's almost 2 p.m. and you came here at 9 a.m. You were here yesterday. You committed yourself to be here. And I want to join the other senators. Nobody has lost hope with you, Bwana CS. Everybody is actually saying they see you, they think of you, they want you. So please, in your dealings with this deal, do not at any time disappoint Kenyans. So we give you 1 minute or two to also give your commitment. Thank you.
For guiding, I want to confirm, like Nairobi Senator is not in, did say we probably have a communication, maybe a credibility problem, and we do not want to get international investors digging down into the credibility of the country where we start a process and we drop it halfway. We will allow us, like you have guided, to follow the law, to be available to Parliament, to basically carry everybody along. Like I did indicate earlier, we've given these documents to the union because the way PPP has not been employed to procure the small procurement that government affords every day, it is not a very usual procurement that succeeds. And we are all frustrated with the PPP Act in that nothing almost seems to go through the PPP process. And therefore, that is why we are not able to implement the big infrastructural projects which government cannot afford. So as to whether we need to relook at the PPP Act to make it work the way the PPD, the Public Procurement and Disposal Act works, is something that we need to look at. As regarding the concern of public participation, you do know, honorable members, that we've come to the House to seek all of us to redefine the scope of public participation, because you also don't want, when you pass a bill into law, Finance Act 2023, you are told you didn't do enough public participation. What is enough public participation? Because it's a democratic space, and whereas 40 million Kenyans could say we think we are happy, and 10 million says we didn't, it becomes a challenge to be able to move the country forward. And we'll appreciate if that public participation bill within the House, which is currently the House, could be expedited. So that even when we say, you can see one member say, when you receive a PPP, give it to us within 48 hours. We gave it out within 30 days, and it seemed like it was rushed. And therefore, it is really important to define some of these processes and see, particularly at this stage in time, how PPP can work for us as an anchor state, so that we do have an infrastructure that can support the region. I have heard the members. We will follow the law. We will observe the law. We will do the right thing by ensuring that if you submit the kind of representation that we have seen here today, and it helps us to have an exit, or to have better understanding for Kenyans as to the need to build a new airport, then we will make the right decision. The due process is such that Senate can oversight at any time, and you can call us at any time, and like you called us and called us again today, we'll provide the information. But members, let us make decisions based on information. We've submitted the information today. I personally believe you need to further internalize with that information. Request for more information we'll submit. Give us information as you receive from the public that can help all of us to make the right decision. And I want to assure you, like has been canvassed here, we will do the right thing, we will follow the law, and we will submit to the directions of Parliament. But let us really not be that country who get investors down midway and say, Kenyans say, we don't like you. Let's really, because we are doing the due diligence, and all the challenges and the fact that the process is not being employed, like I've said severally, to the understanding of Kenyans, provide that information to help us to make the right decision. I thank you, Chairman, and I think you are well guided. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think this brings us to the, we had invited the Christopher, the DG PPPs, and you know we cannot wait to report. So having that in mind, he should appear before the committee, so we do not have to give him the 7 days a grace period that we give when we're inviting people. So for him, just to appear before this, we'll make a decision on when to invite the CS Treasury together with the PS Treasury. So so there being no other business, this till Tuesday 17th at 11.